All right, you and I are about to dive into the craziest survival story ever. It starts with this guy screaming in pure joy as the screen flashes with a massive victory message. He actually beat the impossible game. He is absolutely losing it, celebrating his victory while the live chat goes completely wild. Everyone is spamming congratulations because he is literally the first person to ever pull this off. The game is Defend the Empire, a brutal classic infamous for its insane difficulty. 10 years after its release, someone finally cleared it. Our main character looks right at his streaming camera, bragging to his viewers that no matter how hard a game is, he was born to conquer it. Streaming from his webcam, this guy is a hardcore gamer who specializes in nothing but the most brutally difficult retro games out there. That is actually his whole brand. He happily thanks a user named Fox for a donation of 300,000, hyping up his chat. After all, he just conquered a stage that has defeated the entire world for 10 long years. He jokes about his godlike gaming skills, basking in the glory. It is the ultimate flex for any streamer. But then, a strange direct message pops up. A fan named Sangi writes about how tragic it was that the saint died at the end, since she carried the team despite being a low-ranked character. Our main character goes quiet. He knows the viewers got attached, hoping for a happy ending. But in this game, everyone dies except the hero, Lucas. To him, the mission was simple. Just beat the final boss, not keep every single ally alive. With the final boss slain, the screen declares him the #1 player in the world. Yet on screen, Lucas stands completely alone, surrounded by a mountain of corpses, both friend and foe. It is a hollow victory. Staring at the screen, he feels a sudden wave of sadness. Even though it is just a bunch of pixels, watching Lucas walk away alone feels heavy. Then, the final credits begin to roll. The melancholy lingers. In the chat, a viewer suggests that the game creators owe him a massive reward. He asks why, and another fan replies that he literally just proved the impossible game could be beaten. He chuckles, doubting the developers would ever care. He is just glad to share this epic moment with his viewers. When they tease him that he would actually love a prize, he gets a bit shy and denies it. Honestly, the developers abandoned their website years ago and have not released a single project in 10 years. There is absolutely zero chance they would suddenly reach out to a random streamer like him. But then, a donation message pops up from someone calling themselves Mr. A. He greets our streamer and claims to be the original director of Defend the Empire, leaving our main character completely stunned. Now pay attention, because this is where the mystery begins. The chat goes wild, questioning if this is a prank. The director messages again, admitting he had lost hope that anyone could ever clear his game. Mr. A expresses deep relief and sincerely thanks him for finishing the game. Our hero says it is no big deal, but the developer messages back, saying he is just glad that hope still exists. Our main character wonders if the developer is planning a sequel. But then, a final message appears, stating that since he proved himself capable, it is time for him to join their world. He assumes it is just a troll seeking attention. What are the odds the actual director is watching? Smiling, he decides to play along and jokingly calls out to this self-proclaimed creator on stream. Before he can even finish his sentence, the entire room begins to violently shake. He panics, looking around in utter confusion as his surroundings distort. Collapsing to the floor, he wonders if he just played too long and passed out. As his vision fades to black, he hopes his viewers will call an ambulance. Meanwhile, his monitor flashes with a creepy thank you message. A flash of light, a deafening blast, and our hero suddenly sits straight up. He gasps for air, instantly realizing he is not in his room anymore. Massive, booming sounds echo all around him. Explosions rip through the air, showering him in dirt and rocks. He screams in terror, struggling to push himself off the trembling ground and stand up on his shaky legs. Through the smoke, he spots a massive cannon and coughs from the suffocating smell of gunpowder. Suddenly, a spark ignites, the cannon fires, and the shockwave knocks him flat on his back. Stunned, he looks around as the bombardment continues. He mutters a curse, shielding his face, but as he turns, his jaw drops. A massive flag waves over an entire army lined up for war. Cannons roar and armored knights sprint past him. Our main character is utterly speechless, wondering what kind of nightmare he just woke up in. Nearby, soldiers are firing crossbows into the smoke. Men clash with spears in chaotic combat. This is real, brutal warfare. Suddenly, a knight spots him and yells, calling him His Highness, which completely throws him off. Let's pause right here, because this is hilarious. Terrified, our main character assumes the armored soldier is an enemy. He dives to the dirt, screaming for the man to back off. But the knight suddenly begins to tremble. The soldier drops his weapon, falls to his knees, and starts sobbing hysterically, begging His Highness for mercy. Confused by this bizarre reaction, the boy slowly stands back up. He tries telling the crying soldier to get a grip, but before he can get the words out, a projectile comes screaming right toward him. He panics, but there is no time to dodge. A massive blast erupts, blowing him backward through the air. He crashes hard into the dirt, coughing and trembling as he pushes himself up. Then a weird green light glows, a monstrous roar echoes, and a giant slime swallows several soldiers whole. Our main character is paralyzed with fear. A commander points toward the beast, shouting for the infantry to charge, driving the boy into an even deeper state of panic. He watches the soldiers rush the castle walls to hold off the monstrous horde. They draw their swords, but in a flash of horror, a massive black spike impales a knight right through his chest. He watches in absolute shock as the soldier is hoisted into the air. A severed, armored glove rolls across the stone, stopping right at his feet. Warm, fresh blood splatters across his face. Staring at the severed limb, he trembles in pure terror. More men are slaughtered as he realizes what nightmare lies just beyond the battlements. Suddenly, a massive, horrifying spider-like monster climbs over the wall. It looms directly over him, its multiple red eyes glowing with hunger. It screeches a deafening, high-pitched noise. Covering his ears, he wonders if this giant, terrifying arachnid is actually real. A brave knight charges forward, screaming to halt the beast, but is instantly sliced clean in two. Witnessing this brutality, our main character freezes up. He cannot move a muscle as the monster steps over the corpses toward him. He desperately hopes this is just a vivid nightmare or hallucination, but with the monster closing in, the sheer reality of it hits him. This cannot be happening. The beast raises a razor-sharp leg, aiming to impale him. He closes his eyes, bracing for a gruesome death. Suddenly, a voice shouts out to His Highness, and a flash of blonde hair rushes into view. Drawing his blade, the newcomer asks if he is seriously giving up already. With lightning speed, his eyes glow a brilliant blue as he unleashes a devastating slash. In an instant, the massive spider is sliced in half. Standing there is a dashing blonde warrior. He smirks, teasing the boy for giving him such a cold reaction. As our main character stares in confusion, the warrior suddenly panics, asking if he was injured. He frantically checks him for wounds. Staring at his face, our hero realizes this handsome knight looks incredibly familiar. His eyes widen as he remembers the game. He blurs out, asking if his name is Lucas. Tears well up in the knight's eyes as he assumes his lord must have hit his head. Lucas grabs him, weeping with joy simply because his master finally remembered and spoke his actual name. Apparently, His Highness never dared to remember his bodyguard's name. Staring at the weeping knight, the truth finally hits him. This really is Lucas, which means only one thing. And trust me, this is where you and I realize the sheer terror of his situation. Looking past the crumbling wall, he is trapped inside Defend the Empire. The absolute hardest game ever made. A brutal defense game where endless waves of monstrous beasts constantly raid the fortress. Now, they are charging directly at him. He panics, wondering how he will survive this living hell. You and I are about to dive into one of the absolute wildest game transmigrations ever. He wakes up to exploding buildings, completely lost in a virtual world. Suddenly, a voice shouts for His Highness, it's Lucas. Lucas grabs the boy's shoulders, warning him that the enemy is closing in fast. It's the dreaded Black Spider Army. This forward outpost is on the verge of collapsing, but these monsters freeze when the sun rises. There are only 30 minutes left until dawn. Lucas draws his sword, standing tall to shield our main character. He tells the boy to hold his ground just a little longer. But why is Lucas risking his life to protect him? And why are they calling him His Highness? Who is he even supposed to be in this nightmare? Suddenly, massive windstorms sweep the spiders away, leaving several knights badly wounded. The survivors start checking the bodies. Lucas notes that sunrise is finally here, which is why the spiders retreated. He calls out to His Highness, but the boy just stares blankly, completely lost for words. Staring at the massive piles of dead spiders beneath the wall, the boy calls out to Lucas, who answers instantly. Trembling, the main character asks for the current date and their exact location. Lucas says it's the last day of February, year 649 of the Imperial power at the Crossroads Forward Base. The main character freezes. That means tomorrow is the 1st of March. Lucas is shocked that the date and location are familiar. Of course they are. This is the exact setting of the tutorial he spent a year and a half planning to conquer hundreds of times. This means he has become Ash. Lucas looks confused as the main character screams his name, Ash von Hyder. Lucas confirms it, and the boy curses his luck. Why did it have to be this bastard? Ash is the third prince of the Empire, a total psychopath. As the absolute worst commander in history, he completely wiped out the main forces of this fortified city. To make matters worse, He's the character doomed to suffer the most brutal death in the tutorial. Desperate, the boy panics in front of the mirror. In the bunker, he screams at his own reflection for being a complete idiot. He should have stayed in the capital. What is he doing in this death trap? He scratches his head in utter confusion. This has to be a sick joke. He is trapped in Defend the Empire. Now pay attention, because this game, it's famous for being an absolute nightmare. Welcome to Hell Iron Man, where every mistake is saved forever. No redos, no safety nets. This brutal difficulty level is known as Hell Iron Man. He is literally the only player in the entire world who ever beat it. No matter how impossible the game got, he always found a way to win. But this tutorial, it is a whole different beast. Ash calls out for his system status window, praying there is some kind of exploit to clear this stage. The tutorial was literally designed to be unbeatable. The story starts with a monster invasion where only Lucas escapes. In the timeline, it takes 3 years to clear the campaign and 2.5 years just to hunt down the spider army. So how on earth is he supposed to defeat hundreds of monsters right now? Ash tries to stay calm and remember his gamer roots. He beat this game before. He can do it again. If he relies on his deep knowledge and strategic experience, he might just pull off a miracle. Or not. Ash suddenly bursts into hysterical laughter. He's totally doomed. The system shows 1,000 enemies, all level 50 and above. On top of that, the defensive wall is practically falling apart. Ash looks at the single cannon they have, wondering how that's supposed to save them. Winning here is literally impossible. He has to find a way to make this work. He takes a deep breath. Under Iron Man rules, there are no save files to fall back on. One single mistake, and it is game over permanently. That is why he needs the perfect strategy to survive this madness. After playing this game for 6 months, he knows its mechanics inside out. No matter how bleak, a survival route always exists. He searches the database for a high-powered trump card. Then something incredible catches his eye. This is it. Smiling, Ash kicks open the commander's door and yells for Lucas. He demands to know where Lucas is. The startled knight replies, asking what is wrong. Ash yells at him to gather the main strike team right this second. Lucas asks if he wants to call for reinforcements, noting the prince has never done that before. But Ash cuts him off, telling him to shut up and just summon the troops already. Ash points directly at Lucas's face, shouting that he has found their escape route. Snatching a chair, the boy leans back against the wall, satisfied that everyone has finally arrived. I know what you're thinking, sweet allies. But check this out. Beside Lucas, he recognizes 3 key faces, Lily, Ken, and Damien. He watched them die brutally over and over in his playthroughs. Ash asks why Damien is crying on the floor. Lily explains sadly that the boy just lost a close friend in today's battle. Ash silently reflects that this is just how the tutorial goes. Damien starts the game with a severe debuff, which is why he always dies first. Even though he is a brilliant healer, Ash could never actually keep him alive long enough to use him. Ash addresses the group, announcing he's assigning their combat roles for tomorrow's showdown. He points to Lily, calling her a powerful fire mage who deals the highest damage. But then he tells her she'll be their frontline tank. He wants her to act as a shield and block the spider attacks. Terrified, Lily apologizes and begs to know why he's doing this. Ash completely ignores her and turns his attention to Ken. Ken is a defensive mage who usually stands on the front line, using the environment to distract enemies. Ash orders him to charge directly into the enemy formation to cause chaos. Ken instantly tenses up. Next, Ash looks at Damien. Since he is a healer, he's the most crucial asset. But Ash tells him he's now the team's sniper and must shoot down targets. Finally, Ash tells Lucas he will command the remaining soldiers and hold the front. A heavy silence falls over the room. Ash wonders why they're quiet as Ken starts shaking with pure rage. Ken slams his fist against the wall and screams. He asks if His Highness is insane, calling this a suicide mission rather than a strategy. He tells Ash he has no right to order them to die. The boy stays quiet. He knows the real Ash was an absolute monster, and his words must sound totally crazy, but clearing this stage with normal tactics is completely impossible. He has to play the part of a madman to win. Calling Ken's name, he steals his resolve. He tells him he is not just the Emperor's son, but the commander-in-chief here. Ash asks if Ken is actually planning to disobey direct orders. The room turns icy. Ken trembles in terror, trying to speak, but Ash shuts him down with a terrifying, psychotic glare. If he loses control now, everything will fall apart. Ash steps forward toward Lily. His plan is completely reckless. Gritting his teeth, the prince suddenly draws his sharp dagger. To force them into submission, he has to make a drastic move. He stabs Lily. The room freezes in sheer horror. Lily shakes, unable to comprehend why a blade is buried in her shoulder. She screams in agony. Ash coldly states that everyone has a duty to carry out. Since he is playing the role of a lunatic, he might as well act like one, keeping the blade buried deep. Ken watches in absolute horror, convinced the prince is completely insane. Mages are their primary military strength, so how can they trust a psycho like him in a life-or-death battle? Suddenly, the wound begins to smoke. A massive, roaring flame erupts from Lily's shoulder. Everyone gasps in shock, completely bewildered. Smiling, Ash proudly points out that this is what he was waiting for. He doesn't know if the game developer put this in as a joke, but every character in this tutorial possesses a secret trait completely opposite to their official class. Ash reminds Lily of the time goblins raided her village and cut her as a child. That trauma unlocked her hidden ability, Flaming Skin, which triggers from her extreme fear of blades. It turns her body into flames to dodge physical attacks at the cost of magic. Staring at her tear-filled eyes, he asks if he's wrong. Trust me, we are just getting started. All right, you and I are about to watch an ultimate gamer break a real-life fantasy world. In the game, hidden exploits were impossible to use, but in this reality, he is going to break the system to survive. He does not care what idiot dropped him into this absolute mess. He is going to conquer this absurd game once and for all, and then he will personally track down the mastermind and make them regret it. He pulls the blade out of Lily, apologizing for the brutal demonstration. A shaken Lily asks how he knew her secret, but Ash quickly deflects, turning his attention to Ken, who immediately starts to panic. Ash reveals Ken was once a desperate street thief with a massive family to feed, who clawed his way up to become a knight, sweat-soaked. Ken asks how he could possibly know that. Smiling, the prince says his past is irrelevant. What matters is his skill. Ken has a stealth technique that masks his presence for escape, though it drains his health rapidly with every single use. Ash exposes Ken's hidden escape trick, causing the knight to break out in a cold sweat. He warns Ken to cooperate unless he wants Ash to force him to test it out right now. Bowing deeply, Ken quickly submits, admitting he possesses the skill and will do whatever Ash commands. Satisfied, Ash drops the dagger onto the table and begins to lay out the next phase. Calling Damien over, Ash approaches the boy, knowing he is the absolute key to this desperate mission. Crouching down, he reminds the young healer of his incredible eyesight. He demands Damien remember exactly how his friend perished. Damien looks down, silent. His childhood friend from the orphanage had died on the front lines, taking Damien's place on the battlefield. Sobbing, the healer demands to know why the prince summoned them tonight. Is there a noble plan, or is he just playing with their lives for his own sick amusement? He screams at Ash to bring his friend Van back from the dead. Outside, a single flower grows against the stone wall. Ash grips Damien's shoulder, telling him to go ahead and hate him. But Van threw away his life to save them, and now Damien is just waiting around to die. Ash asks if he really wants to waste that sacrifice just because some commander sent them to the slaughter. He grabs the boy and demands revenge. Watch closely, because fighting those spiders is the only way they survive. Once they are safe, Damien can try to kill him. Ash asks if he wants to slaughter those damn monsters, and the healer agrees. Ash then asks if Damien wants to take him down too. Damien pauses, then firmly says yes. The tense squad holds their breath at his response. Ash just smiles, promising that if they survive this hell, he will gladly let the boy kill him. Lucas yells in protest, but Ash silences him. If this mission fails, they are all dead anyway, so dying by Damien's hand later makes no difference to him. Swearing on his family's honor, Ash demands Damien obey him just for tomorrow. He knows he must weaponize this raw hatred to keep them alive. Damien slowly nods in agreement. Ash will gladly let them hate him if it gets them through this. Coldly, he states that failure is not an option after his previous blunders almost destroyed the army. But if this gamble works, those spiders are history. It is a tiny shot at victory, but they must trust him. Now, his makeshift vanguard of 4 stands ready. Whether they are a true royal guard or a squad of rejects, he is going all in. Suddenly, a scout yells that the horde is coming. A knight doubts the plan, but Ash tells him to just shut up and follow orders. The monsters swarm in at terrifying speed, but the plan is simple. While the vanguard buys precious time, Ash needs to locate the queen controlling the entire swarm. Once she is spotted, he will blast her with a mana cannon, overloading the weapon to release maximum destructive power. He knows the queen cannot survive a direct hit. The real challenge is finding her, as she is likely camouflaged deep within the forest. Ash doubts himself for a second, but he has a secret weapon. He activates his system mapping ability to search the battlefield. Let us pause for a second. His stats are complete garbage, but this minimap hack is actually insane. The only problem, We need to find out exactly where that spider queen is hiding. But something is wrong. The map displays absolutely zero boss markers. The enemy queen is completely invisible to his system. Outside, the heavy iron gates open before Ken. Before sending him out, Ash handed him a stash of high-grade stamina potions. Ken's job is to draw the monster's attention. Meanwhile, inside the shaking fortress, Lily waits in terror. Ash gave her the ultimate defense duty if the walls fall. Lucas commands the defense line to hold firm. The soldiers prepare their massive ballistas and mana cannons, drawing weapons as the insect horde crashes against the gate. They must buy enough time for the prince to locate their target. Lucas looks back, signaling they are ready, but Ash is panicking because his map is failing. The defense forces launch an all-out assault, blowing the advancing spiders to pieces. Lucas gives Ash a thumbs up, but the prince is too busy trying to keep his composure. He reminds himself that killing the boss is not the main goal. Still, she must be hiding somewhere, guarded by her elite protectors in the rear line. Realizing she has to be out there, Ash calls for Damien. He points toward a completely empty field, asking if the boy can spot any suspicious movement. He asks the healer to scan the area for the queen. Damien squints, asking if he means that horrific creature with a giant spider body and a human face. Ash grins. That is exactly her. Damien shudders at her hideous look, but Ash reassures him she is about to be completely vaporized. They pivot the heavy cannon. A soldier confirms the mana core is fully charged and ready to fire on command. Ash tells Damien to take aim, but the boy begins to panic, trembling with fear. Ash reassures him, saying it is perfectly fine to miss. He will take full responsibility for any disaster that happens today. The burden of failure belongs to the commander, not the soldier. He tells Damien his only job right now is to pull the lever. Fueled by revenge, Damien locks onto his target, activating his long-range vision skill. He pulls the trigger, the massive gears grinding as Ash watches in anticipation. A blinding flash erupts as the mana shell is unleashed. The sheer force of the blast whips up a violent gale, hurtling toward the target. Ash screams for the blast to obliterate the beast. A massive explosion lights up the horizon. A spotter checks his binoculars and confirms a direct hit right in the center. The soldiers cheer, amazed by Damien's incredible marksmanship. The shy kid blushes, admitting he just followed the prince's orders. He claims it felt totally natural, but Ash knows better. Damien's unique long-range sight is basically an aimbot, allowing him to snipe any target effortlessly. It feels like a total cheat code. In the original game, this kid was completely useless in combat, but now their insane strategy has actually worked. Looking over the wall, Ash freezes. The spiders are still charging. And trust me, you and I are about to see that their nightmare has only just begun. All right, you and I are jumping right into a nightmare. Ash stares as the giant spider queen begins her march, shielded and absolutely furious. Something is seriously wrong here, and the horde is moving fast. Shocked, Ash watches every single spider rally to their queen. Where are they heading? His men panic, demanding to know why she is completely unscathed after taking a direct hit. He desperately begs for a moment to think, but a knight screams that they are out of time. The monsters are swarming the fortress. Ash can only curse his own terrible leadership. Defenders on the walls keep hurling bombs, but Ken is completely drained, down to his last stamina potion. Crouched behind a tree, he seriously starts debating whether he should just run. A sudden crash echoes. Ken stumbles up, finding the area eerily empty. Wind howls through the trees as he drops to his knees, utterly exhausted and terrified of what is coming. Damien locks his sights on the Spider Queen. A direct hit, but as Ash watches through the smoke, the horde keeps marching. The queen does not have a single scratch. How is she still standing? In the game, a tutorial boss like this Black Spider Queen is barely stronger than her minions. A few good explosions should have ripped her apart. Is this queen even killable? There is zero database info on her. Just then, a soldier screams that the mana cannon is overheating. They have pushed the weapon past its absolute limits. With the barrels warping, Ash demands a status report on their remaining ammo. Out of their original 5 shots, they only have 3 left. The situation is turning desperate. Ash braces himself. They have to make those 3 shots count to kill that queen. But looking at Damien, there is a massive problem. His eyes are failing him. Now, watch closely here because Damien is pushing his vision to the breaking point. Can he hold out for 3 more shots? Just as the walls hold, a soldier screams a warning. Ash freezes. A massive demolisher monster is lumbering forward, built to tear down fortifications. Panic sets in because this enemy was never supposed to appear during this stage of the game. He orders every cannon to focus fire on the giant. Explosions rock the beast, but its armor is too thick. It keeps coming, and the wall is about to crumble. Boom! One massive strike shatters the gates, leaving a gaping hole. The spider army floods inside, and Ash can only watch in absolute despair as his defenses fail. Lucas orders his men to draw steel and prepare for close combat. Ash warns the knights above to stay safe, knowing they cannot count on any ground support anymore. Their only hope is to kill the queen. Ash reiterates they must put her down now. A knight yells that the cannon is loaded, and Ash commands Damien to fire. Damien strains his special vision to the absolute limit and pulls the trigger. Another direct hit, but the queen shrugs it off completely. Ash furiously orders another reload while Lucas holds the line against the swarm. Lucas slashes through dozens of bugs, but they just keep coming. He screams at his men to protect the Lord at all costs. Ash feels his sanity slipping as panic takes over. The guards throw themselves into the meat grinder to save him, but they are hopelessly outnumbered. They are slaughtered one by one, and Ash is completely paralyzed by the mounting body count. He thinks back to his gaming days. Back then, these were just pixel characters. But here, death is not just a statistic on a screen anymore. The air is thick with the stench of blood and horrific screams. Closing his menu, Ash hears a soldier yell to regroup and cool the cannon immediately. Let us pause here. They are going to crumble before they even fire their last shots. We see Lucas sprinting into battle, risking everything, while Ash stands frozen, utterly clueless on how to survive. Suddenly, Ken charges the gate, screaming to draw the spiders away. Ash gasps in shock. Draining his final stamina potion, the exhausted warrior bellows his name as a proud royal knight. The spiders take the bait and turn on Ken. Masking his sheer terror, he sprints into the woods with the horde on his heels, smiling as he spots a boulder. Diving behind the giant rock, he activates his thief survival skill to completely vanish from sight, but Ash screams a warning in horror. Ken has absolutely zero stamina left, and his health is critically low. The skill fails, and Ken materializes right in the middle of the horde. Bitterly cursing his trust in Ash, a devastating strike crushes him instantly. Ash is paralyzed as the sickening sounds of tearing flesh echo nearby. The spiders rip Ken to pieces. Ash is crushed by the guilt, knowing he just let another good man die. Lucas rallies the troops, shouting that Ken bought them time. He orders an immediate advance to hold the breach, but it is not just Ken paying the price. Every single soldier is dying because of his orders. In the game, sacrifice was just a strategy. He used to throw away allies as bait without a single second thought. He would happily let them die to secure items or complete quests, never questioning the cost. But now, the heavy reality of his decisions is staring him right in the face. He screams at the vicious beasts to stop, finally understanding the agonizing pain of these deaths. But monsters do not care about desperate cries. Suddenly, a blade flashes, slicing down a spider directly in front of him. Lucas is right there, guarding him, and asks if he is unhurt. Staring at the writhing beast on the ground, Ash mutters that he is fine, realizing there is only one solution. He decapitates the monster. They must kill everything before they are wiped out. A knight shouts that the force shell is ready, but the queen is way out of range. Ash asks Damien if he can make the shot. Bleeding from his eyes, Damien nods and fires the cannon. The blast hits, making the queen shriek as nearby monsters are vaporized. The queen shrieks in agony as a massive explosion erupts directly on her head. But despite the devastating blow, the terrifying monster is still standing, completely alive. Despair sets in, and the soldiers sink to their knees. Their weapons are not enough. The cannon barrel is warping from the heat. One more shot will cause it to explode. The men admit defeat, whispering that it is over. Ash gasps for air, wondering if this is the end. Their lines are shattered, and their blind gunner cannot even open his eyes. Ash drops his arms, ready to surrender. But a soldier suddenly shouts that they actually broke through. The queen's heavy outer armor has been shattered. Ash turns to the brave soldier who is staying loyal to the very end. The man yells that one more hit will kill her, but a sudden counterattack blasts toward them. The blast hits the tower dead center. An explosion rips through the command post. Lucas screams for his lord as the structure crumbles, sending Ash falling into the ruins. His dreams of clearing this level shatter in an instant. Through a blur, Ash hears muffled voices before waking to bright light, finding Lucas shielding him beneath the heavy rubble. Lucas threw himself over Ash to absorb the impact, taking severe damage, yet he still asks if his lord is safe. Ash screams that Lucas is the one who is dying. Coughing up blood, the loyal knight asks if Ash remembers a promise from 20 years ago. But Ash has no idea. He is just a player who does not share those memories. Lucas recalls what Ash told him on the day he became his bodyguard. Ash had promised that while he might never be king, he would become the most admirable man alive. And as his guard, Lucas would be the greatest knight. A childish promise, but it kept Lucas fighting. Trust me, you and I are about to see if they can survive this tragedy. Alright, let's dive into this epic moment where Lucas declares his eternal faith in Ash. But instantly, the crushing weight of the Driss collapses the entire tower, burying our knight under a mountain of heavy stone. Ash desperately drags Lucas from the debris, praying the knight survives. He is the true protagonist, the chosen savior of this world. There is no way he can meet his end in a place like this. Waking up dazed, Ash needs to assess the situation immediately. How long was he out? Is artillery still raining down? That is when he spots their shattered cannon, fallen soldiers, and Damien lying on the battlefield. Thankfully, the injuries are not fatal, but the artillery piece is completely ruined. As Ash struggles to understand how they are still breathing, Lily suddenly screams for him from the front line. There she is, shielding him and desperately fending off the swarming monsters. Ash refuses to quit, but Lily is at her absolute limit, her body already pierced and bleeding from the onslaught. Horrified, Ash rushes to her side, but Lily waves him back, warning that her defense will not last. She can briefly block the choke point, but that giant demolisher is bound to break through any second. Desperate, Lily screams for him to run and make their sacrifices count. Panicking but determined, Ash turns to his remaining men and orders them to load the cannon with their very last shell. The artilleryman protests, warning that the unstable barrel will explode if they fire it again. But Ash snaps back, pointing out they will all be spider food anyway if they do nothing. They must risk it all on one final roll of the dice. The soldier argues that targeting is impossible without eyes on the queen, especially with the heavy weapon completely detached from its mount. Ash demands they stabilize the weapon with their bare hands, using whatever they have left. He promises they do not need visual aim because Damien will guide the shot. He commands them to load the final round immediately. Though he does not fully grasp Damien's mysterious farsight ability, Ash knows it is their only hope for precision. He approaches the trembling boy, desperate to secure his cooperation. Now, pay attention here because this is where the despair hits. Ash begs Damien to endure just one more shot, but the boy asks what the point is when nothing they do ever changes their fate. Ash insists that killing the queen ends this nightmare, but Damien's spirit is crushed. Even if he fires and defeats the beast, he cannot see how that makes up for all their loss. His close friend Van is dead, and no amount of vengeance will bring him back. Damien feels that no matter how hard he fights or how much he sacrifices, this cruel world just keeps taking. He wants to quit, ready to welcome death and reunite with his friend. But Ash cuts him off, shouting his name, asking if he honestly believes they are the only ones facing this painful reality. When Damien agrees that life is just one hurdle after another, Ash grabs him by the collar and yells that he is merely stating the obvious in the most pathetic way. This world is locked on hell difficulty, a brutal permadeath setting where you cannot save everyone. But this is not a simulation. This harsh reality was built to be a living nightmare from day one. He screams that life is fundamentally unfair and never goes to plan. But that is simply the truth. Everyone left standing is clawing to survive in this miserable wasteland. Giving up is simply not an option. Ash fiercely tells the boy that choosing death is a coward's way out, declaring that they must fight and strike back until their very last breath. Unsheathing his blade, he tells Damien that if he wants to die, he should slice his own throat. But if he lacks the guts to do even that, Ash will gladly do it for him. Ash demands he forget his fallen comrade, reminding Damien that a soldier only needs his commander to guide him. He is a tool, a weapon of war, and that purpose alone must be enough to keep him moving. As Ash roars, the system suddenly alerts him that he has unlocked the indomitable commander's skill. With a look of pure fury, he commands the boy to obey. Let's pause here because this moment hits different. Gripping Damien's shoulder, Ash orders him to blast those monsters to pieces. Consumed by the commander's will, the boy agrees. Meanwhile, the crew loads the final round, warning there is no time to cool the boiling barrel. Ash steps up directly to the smoking, white-hot weapon and declares he will hold it himself. The horrified crew warns that touching the blistering metal will melt the skin off his hands. They scream it will cause catastrophic injury, but Ash scoffs, saying it beats dying. Turning to Damien, he asks if he is ready, brushing off the boy's warning that his vision is completely gone. Even when Damien admits he cannot feel his hands, Ash remains unshaken. He grabs the scorching hot barrel with his bare palms and lifts it, screaming as his flesh instantly begins to burn. As Ash howls in agony, the soldiers rally, rushing forward to share the burden. Together, the men grab the searing metal frame, screaming in unison as they hold the line. Suddenly, the massive demolisher looms ahead. Spotting it, Ash roars for Damien to fire. With blood streaming from his eyes, Damien activates his skill and pulls the trigger, the barrel glowing white-hot. Ash watches with fierce intensity as the massive shell is propelled forward. It tears through the ruins, flying straight toward the queen, just as the exhausted defenders collapse with monsters closing in. Ash prays, the shot finds its mark. The odds were completely stacked against them, firing a blind trajectory with a ruined artillery piece. Yet the heavy projectile tears through the air at blinding speed. Logically, there is no way this desperate gamble should connect. Yet, defying gravity, distance, and all probability, the blazing cannonball surges onward directly toward the target. Plunging through the horde of lesser beasts without losing momentum, the projectile flies straight, as if guided by destiny itself. The massive queen shrieks in sudden, desperate terror. With a deafening impact, the shot obliterates the queen's head, instantly ending the threat. A strange system alert pops up, expressing utter shock at how Ash managed to pull off this victory. Ash recalls being completely speechless back when he received his very first chat message as a streamer. The viewer promised to support him and asked if he would keep fighting, but the memory of his own response has faded entirely. Ash suddenly bolts awake, shocked to still be breathing. He tries to stand, but his body is wrapped in heavy bandages and racked with intense pain. A gentle voice urges him to lie back down. Dazed, Ash watches a handwriting. The healer explains that while Damien uses powers to save him, the severe burns will require a long time to heal. It is Lily tending to him. She reveals he has been unconscious for 4 days, and she feared he would never wake up after that brutal victory over the arachnid horde. Ash is stunned. He mutters a relief that she made it, and she credits his leadership. That final desperate blow took down the queen, instantly neutralizing the entire swarm. They actually won, though the cost is staggering. Arriving reinforcements cleared the remaining pests and recovered the fallen. Lily gently lists his injuries, noting the extensive, severe burns scarring his hands, arms, shoulders, and neck. She mentions he should head to the temple once the crossroads are secure. He will carry permanent scars, but Ash whispers that survival is a price he will gladly pay. Asking how she fared, Ash freezes as she slowly turns around, revealing she is now bound to a wheelchair. When her mana depleted, a monster struck her from behind. Though the queen's death saved her from being finished off, the impact shattered her spine. The nerve damage is permanent, leaving her lower body completely paralyzed. Ash is utterly devastated, but Lily smiles, simply grateful to be breathing. Out of hundreds of brave soldiers who marched into that battle, only 9 survived, including him, Lucas, Damien, and herself. Just 9 left. You and I can feel his guilt as he wonders if there was a better strategy to save more lives. Placing a gentle hand on him, Lily reminds him that he is not God. He could never save every single soul, and he fought his absolute hardest. Yet, Ash knows he was the commander who led them to this slaughter, and that heavy burden rests entirely on his shoulders. All right, you and I are diving into a brutal aftermath. Lily reassures him that nobody could predict this massive monster surge, the worst in 10 years. No one would have stopped him from fighting anyway. Just then, Lucas bursts in, crying out for his highness and sobbing with gratitude that Ash is finally awake. He frantically offers to call Damien, but Ash insists he can handle it. He even turns it around, asking if Lucas is actually fine to be walking around with his own injuries. Lucas boasts about his famously tough body. True enough, he is an elite knight, but then his face falls he completed the casualty list. Though many bodies are still missing. They gathered as many fallen soldiers as possible. When Ash asks where they are, Lucas reveals they are at the northern field base. Determined to see them, Ash tries to stand. Lily and Lucas beg him to rest, but Ash looks them in the eye. These men died under his direct command. He must face them. Asking for help, Lucas happily offers a piggyback ride instead. Weak and exhausted, Ash realizes just how comfortable his knight is. He jokes about making Lucas his personal mount, which the loyal knight gladly accepts. Meanwhile, Damien stands quietly by a rock, watching them approach. Damien is relieved to see Ash awake. When asked about his eyes, the boy explains they are recovering fast, his vision started coming back yesterday, and is nearly normal now. Ash is deeply moved. He realizes Damien pushed through temporary blindness just to use his healing magic on him. He realizes he was far too harsh on the poor kid. Ash admits their mission only succeeded because of him, and offers to fund a permanent, wealthy retirement so Damien never has to fight ever again. He is free. But watch closely here, the boy asks if Ash forgot calling him his weapon. He wants to know where these created monsters came from. He needs to understand why Van died, choosing to follow Ash. Watching them, Lucas smiles proudly. Accepting his resolve, Ash assigns him to assist the priest during the memorial. Together, they watch a blue flame ignite. Ash remains silent, knowing his strategy was far from perfect. But regret is useless now. He made his choice, executed the plan, and this was the outcome. Now he must carry the heavy weight of those consequences on his own shoulders. Once the memorial service concludes, Ash instructs Lucas to prepare all the fallen soldiers for transport. At the crossroads, countless people die every single year. In this grim reality, funerals are more expensive than human lives. Ash points to a western field where they will rest. He plans to raise a proper cemetery where the in-game memorial once stood. From now on, the last day of February will be their day of remembrance. Lucas nods in solemn agreement. This is his personal atonement for the countless characters he sacrificed without a second thought during his hundreds of game resets. As the blue flame flickers, Ash vows to Lucas that he will never make this mistake again. He will not fail. Now, it is time to return to headquarters at the crossroads. The system alerts him that Stage 0 is cleared. His reward is waiting in his inventory as their caravan rolls across the open plains. 3 days after leaving the tutorial zone, they travel north toward headquarters. Bored out of his mind, Ash asks if they are close, but Lucas urges him to be patient. Sighing, Ash wonders if his knight is just an automated delivery driver with preset responses. Suddenly, a system prompt appears, demanding he choose a class. I know what you are thinking, level 5 already? Yes, because beating the tutorial unlocks his class selection. But looking at his pathetic base stats, Ash can only sigh. This character is utterly garbage, though his stats did get a slight boost. He can pick any normal class, but a strange option sits at the very bottom. Beginner Commander, a class he has never encountered in all his playthroughs. Could this be a special Ironman bonus, a legendary hidden class? Staring at the screen, he remembers his earlier skill, the Indomitable Commander. It seems the system is forcefully pushing him down this leadership path. Born from sheer perseverance, this skill makes nearby allies immune to mental attacks. Extremely useful, but practically wasted in the early game before magic even becomes a factor. Wary of an unknown class, Ash groans. Suddenly, Lucas shouts that the crossroads is in sight. Ash eagerly pokes his head out the window and freezes in awe. Before him looms a colossal walled fortress, the southernmost bastion of this entire world. Constructed to hold off waves of nightmarish beasts from the southern Black Lake. It stands today as the Empire's greatest shield. But as the monster attacks slowly declined, the Empire relocated its elite forces, filling the gap with discarded veterans and greenhorn mercenaries desperate for work. Hired, regardless of talent or nationality, these desperate fighters were treated as nothing more than disposable meat shields on the front lines. With cheap labor flooding in, businesses thrived. 10 years later, this massive outpost has expanded so much it looks like a bustling city. Soon, people will stop calling it a mere fortress and call it Fortress City, the ultimate shield against monsters. Yet, mercenaries who sell their lives here have a darker nickname for it. They call it the City of Graves. Staring out, Ash knows this is humanity's absolute last line of defense. Seeing it in person is entirely different from a computer screen. It is massive, ancient, and starting today, he is its lord. As they enter, Lucas notices the tense crowd. Staring out, Ash senses the boiling anger in the crowd and breaks into a cold sweat. After all, their new lord marched an entire army away, only to return completely alone. But Ash smiles, he anticipated this. The murmuring crowd soon spots a carriage overflowing with incredibly rare treasures. He secured 400 high-purity mana stones from the Black Spiders. These rare gems are worth a fortune, solving his immediate financial crises. Since the system put him through a hellish tutorial, this bounty is well-deserved. If he wants to survive, winning over the local citizens is his top priority. Their trust in him is currently below 0, but he has a plan to change that. Grinning, Ash prepares to win them over with pure, calculated generosity. The carriages finally halt before a grand estate. Lucas opens the door, welcoming his lord home. Thanking the knight, Ash steps out into his new domain. Ash is stunned. This estate is a massive upgrade from his old, ordinary life. Who would have thought surviving a hellish tutorial would land him his dream mansion? Suddenly, a bespectacled man rushes out to embrace him. And that is where we leave it today. Trust me, you are going to want to see who this stranger is. Stick with me, you and I are about to watch this frantic young man freak out, apologizing for calling Ash Lord, then crying hysterically when he notices some tiny scratches on his master's precious body. The guy completely losing his mind is named Eider. In the game, he is an NPC in charge of administrative duties at the crossroads, handling construction, employment, and base maintenance. Ash has to finish city maintenance missions with this guy. As the mansion gates open, Eider reveals he prepared a hot bath and a warm meal, urging Ash to rest. Taking everything in, Ash quietly orders Lucas to give the soldiers the day off and get some rest himself. Lucas protests out of concern, but Ash insists he'll be fine and tells him to return tomorrow. Lucas looks dejected but obeys the order. As Eider leads our hero through the mansion, Ash assumes the knight's quarters must be down on the first floor. Steam rises as hot water fills a massive tub. Eider promises the bath will wash away the bone-deep fatigue and the stench of blood. Ash admits he hasn't bathed in years and is absolutely exhausted. He was planning to unwind anyway. Ash thanks Eider and dismisses him, unbuttoning his shirt with a relaxed smile. But then, Eider stops and says there is one more thing. He says he was deeply impressed by the performance of the classic geek gamer. Ash freezes in sheer shock. How does this NPC know who he really is? Eider admits he never expected anyone to clear the tutorial like that. Realizing the truth, a furious Ash spins around. Eider happily reveals he is the director of Protect the Empire, and Ash instantly decks him. The kid goes flying across the room. Our hero can't believe this idiot is the director. This is the absolute bastard who dragged him into this nightmare. Eider begs him to calm down, kneeling and apologizing for the kidnapping, but insists this world desperately needs him. Ash just leaps on him for another round of beating, leaving Eider bloody and bruised. Ash finally stops and demands to know if Eider is the director who messaged him. When Eider nods, Ash asks if he runs this entire world. Eider confirms it. Annoyed by his attitude, Ash demands to know why he was brought here. Wiping away the blood, Eider explains that this world has a true ending that no player has ever reached. Now pay attention here, because this is where the truth drops. Eider reset this world countless times but failed, prompting him to seek outside help. Suddenly, magic starts swirling around them. Eider pulls up system screens, explaining he redesigned the game to recruit players from other dimensions. A massive server list materializes, and right there on the list is Earth. He tried every unthinkable strategy, yet everyone failed to reach the end. Ash asks if that means he failed too, demanding to know what this true ending actually is. Eider admits even he didn't expect anyone to pull it off, but Ash achieved the impossible. He is the single player who conquered the brutal Iron Man Hell mode. Because of that insane potential, he was summoned. Ash snaps back, calling it a literal kidnapping, especially since he was dropped straight into a lethal tutorial inside this royal body. When demanded to explain why, Eider claims it was an unpredictable mistake. But now, he wants to reveal the massive reward waiting for him. Ash is left completely baffled. Guiding this world to the true ending grants him one absolute wish. Ash wonders if he is inside a Dragon Ball episode, while the creator claims godlike power here. Ash is highly skeptical. But Eider promises that upon returning to his original world, he can claim any extravagant reward he desires. Ash asks if absolutely anything goes, and Eider nods. Ash asks if he can get 10 billion won. Adjusting his glasses, Eider scoffs, claiming he could easily grant 100 billion won. Ash gets annoyed, sensing total lies. Still, the offer is incredibly tempting. A single, guaranteed wish. Deep down, there is one dream he has always wanted to make a reality. If this kid can truly grant anything, then Eider cuts in, asking if he has a non-monetary wish in mind. A deeply buried dream he never let go of. Ash stays completely silent. You and I can feel the weight here. Our hero realizes this self-proclaimed god knew everything about him from the start. He knows his deepest regrets and the heavy burdens he carries. Eider promises to make it happen, but Ash mutters it is too late. Eider insists that as long as the dream lives, it is not over, prompting Ash to ask why he cannot clear it himself. Eider admits his powers are heavily restricted in this world, leaving him as a mere ordinary human. That is exactly why he had to find a player like Ash. Our main character asks one final, crucial question. What happens if he dies here? Eider looks him dead in the eye and says he dies for real. No saves, no loads. He should know that better than anyone after beating Iron Man mode. Ash realizes he is right. You can walk away from a lot of things, but death is absolute. Eider offers to send him back to Earth right now. Shocked, Ash listens as Eider nervously explains he wanted to ask sooner, but things got crazy. Now, it is time to choose. Does he chase the true ending and claim his ultimate wish, or return to a peaceful, risk-free life on Earth? The choice is entirely in his hands. Logically, he should leave. But two things hold him back. First, his burning desire to make that wish a reality. Second, his sheer confidence as a top player. It is worth a shot. He already conquered this game on Hell mode, knowing every detail. He just needs to win once more. Ash decides to take the gamble. Eider lights up. Ash warns him that if he takes this on, Eider must back him up completely and deliver on that wish. Overjoyed, Eider shouts that it won't be a problem. Ash jabs his finger into Eider's chest, ordering him to ensure every single Black Spider Mana stone is sold by tomorrow morning. Startled, Eider listens as Ash points out they are valuable conversion items, and he must know the trade routes. Eider protests, saying the markets are closed tonight. Furious, Ash snaps at him to shut up and get it done. He needs those funds immediately before his next tasks. Terrified, Eider stammers that there are 388 stones. The value is astronomical. When asked what he'll do with the money, Ash replies his roster is vacant. Ash grins, amused by the question. He and Lucas head straight for the mercenary guild. It is gacha time. Flipping a coin, Ash notes he has been taking things easy. Catching the coin, he boasts about his streak of 100 straight victories. By morning, an exhausted Eider stands before the knights with stacks of gold bars. Outside a loud tavern door, Ash wonders who is making a ruckus so early. Lucas offers to lead, but Ash simply kicks the door open, demanding to know who is inside. The tavern is packed. A bald, angry mercenary barks, asking what is going on and if the brat has a final wish. Angry, Ash demands they lower their gaze. As he approaches, the bald mercenary panics, stuttering that he was just asking the master if he had any final requests. Whispers spread about Ash being a crazy third prince who dragged his men to the front lines and slaughtered every spider. Meanwhile, Ash scans the crowd for top talent. And that is where we leave it today, trust me. You're going to want to see what rank of ally he pulls next. A figure sitting in the corner, under an eerie purple light, catches Ash's eye, slowly puffing a cigar. The stranger welcomes our main character to the Crossroads branch of the massive Continental Mercenary Guild. She is an elderly veteran wearing a military uniform covered in medals, clearly a legendary high-ranking figure. A shocked Ash takes a seat, asking for her name. The old lady introduces herself as Jupiter, greeting him with a grin. You and I can tell she is a powerful mage. Ash cannot believe this old veteran is a mercenary. Studying her outfit, he admits he has never seen that uniform and asks where she served. Jupiter reveals she served the Everlack Empire itself. The design is decades old, which explains why the prince does not recognize it. Smiling, Ash notes she must have been quite the legendary soldier back in her glory days. The old woman spent 30 years in active service. She even rose to become the second general of the Empire's elite mage corps before retiring to work as a freelance mercenary. Ash praises her for serving her nation even after retirement, calling her a true role model. But Jupiter scoffs, swirling her drink. It is not that noble, she just needs the cash. So, what brings the prince here? Ash retorts that there is only one reason to visit a mercenary guild. He wants to hire elite warriors. But Jupiter sharpens her gaze, asking if he is actually looking for sacrificial pawns to die for him. Lucas barks at her for being disrespectful, but Ash raises a hand to hold him back. Taking another puff of her cigar, Jupiter mentions the tragic battle at the forward base, which everyone in the city is gossiping about. Looks like the young lord paid a massive price for his reckless first clash. She points out that while mercenaries fight for cold, hard cash, they are not fools eager to dig their own graves. None of them have any desire to follow a green commander straight into a meat grinder. Remaining perfectly calm, Ash says he gets it. Standing up, he addresses the room, stating that everyone here is chasing money. After all, nobody would risk their lives for a living if they had better options. He asks if they are scared, slapping the table right next to Jupiter. He mocks her claim about not throwing their lives away. He finds that statement incredibly ironic coming from her. When she asks why, Ash smiles. She has legendary skills, yes, but her retirement was forced because she accepted massive bribes from military officials. Now watch this, he asks if that isn't the definition of digging her own grave. She clearly did not expect him to hold her darkest secrets. And he is not done yet. She also smuggled black market goods, resulting in her shameful discharge. Yet, here she is, wearing her old uniform with pride. Ash openly mocks how incredibly shameless she is. She is the ultimate poster child for corruption, a disgraced veteran kicked out of the military. But when it comes to raw magical power, she is a legendary hero who fights like a ruthless pirate, the famous lightning mage, Jupiter. Unfazed, Jupiter replies that even if her career ended in disgrace, she still takes pride in having fought for the Empire. Her expression turns deadly serious, warning him to watch his mouth. But Ash just smiles, asking what her price is to buy that pride. As she stares him down, he asks how much gold it takes to make her his loyal hunting dog. Smirking, she warns him she is incredibly expensive, demanding 100,000 gold coins a year. Ash immediately counters with 200,000, causing her to drop her cigar in absolute shock. Paying that much to a single mercenary is insane, but he has the ultimate trump card. He just made a fortune selling 388 mana stones. Now, he can buy anyone he wants. Slapping down a contract, Ash roars so the entire tavern can hear him. He is going to buy their fear of death. He offers double their regular pay in cash, up front. Cowards can leave right now. But if they are real mercenaries who want real money, they must meet him at the Western Plains this afternoon. Yes, it is a crazy sum, but he needs killers. Meanwhile, inside a cathedral, a holy woman uses her magic to heal Ash's wounds. She warns him that the burn will leave a minor scar. He thanks her, but she tells him it is unnecessary. She is a high-tier priest, a powerful healer he could recruit later if he plays his cards right. But today, he is here for business, sliding over a heavy pouch of gold for their agreed favor. Margarita mentions she gathered every priest available, including Damien. Smiling, Ash tells them to get to work. They have a massive task ahead, and they need to stay strong. Later that afternoon, the mercenaries assemble at the Western Plains. Coffins are brought in from the ruined forward base, including Ken's, complete with a touching portrait of his family. Ash stands in solemn silence. Soldiers line up as flags are draped over the caskets. In a lawless city where death is cheap, the young lord is giving them a proper, respectful funeral. If you think that is a grand gesture, check this out. He compensates the grieving families with a massive fortune. Rumors spread like wildfire, and Ash has no intention of hiding his extreme wealth. Sure, this entire spectacle is designed for show, but it is a brilliant psychological move. Fighting on the front lines must be viewed as a noble sacrifice for humanity, not a pointless death. Stepping forward, he announces himself as Ash, the third prince and their new lord. The crowd whispers in shock at this infamous, hot-tempered royalty. Then Ash drops a bombshell to be perfectly clear. They are all going to die. As the crowd murmurs over his grim declaration, Jupiter watches him silently from the shadows. Spotting her in the crowd, Ash smiles internally. She actually showed up, just as he planned. Fresh graves will fill this yard weekly, and mourning songs will echo constantly. But he makes one thing absolutely clear: their deaths under his command will be far more expensive than their lives. The funeral costs and massive family payouts add up to astronomical numbers. He has already burned through half of his fortune from the mana stones just to fund these death benefits. Grim, meaningless deaths are officially over. Ash promises to use every resource at his disposal to keep them alive and dominate the front lines. So, he commands them do not dare die on his watch. They must survive so he can keep paying their massive wages. He begs them not to waste his gold on their funerals. Ending his speech, the soldiers fire a loud salute into the sky. Ash wonders if the citizens see him as a delusional commander or just a rich, crazy young lord. Honestly, it does not matter to him in the slightest. After all, the upcoming battles against the monster horde will prove his tactical genius. Grinning with absolute confidence, Ash declares it is time to clear Stage 1. The system alerts him that exactly 3 days and 1 hour remain. Following the ceremony, Ash and Lucas stand in the quiet backyard of the Lord's Manor. A holographic system window pops up, asking if he wants to activate the ancient teleportation gate. Yes, absolutely, Ash commands. Suddenly, heavy stones float into the air, assembling into a massive portal frame. Pure magic unfolds right before their eyes. Lucas gapes, asking what it is. Ash explains it leads directly to the dungeon deep beneath the lake. As the knight stands shocked, Ash steps closer, calling it a shortcut to the enemy's lair. The game Protect the Empire is a unique hybrid of tower defense and tactical dungeon assault, a fact proudly advertised right on its cover. Fighting off the monster waves at the crossroads is the tower defense stage, but between those battles, they must explore the lake dungeon to raid the enemy headquarters before they strike again. This is the exploration phase of the dungeon assault. This relentless loop of defense and raiding is the core of this brutally difficult game, and as Ash predicted, this portal appears just before Stage 1 begins. He barely survived the tutorial, but they have built a solid foundation. He has Damien, who's practically a walking cheat code, and Jupiter, the legendary lightning mage. With an insane fortune in his hands, this is the ultimate lucky start. After explaining the plan to Lucas, they prepare to scout the enemy's next wave. Trust me, we're in for a wild ride. Stick with me here, we are about to see just how confused poor Lucas really is. Not only has his lifelong master suddenly swapped personalities, but now the guy understands this foreign city and dangerous dungeon layout like a total pro. It is probably terrifying to witness, yet he blindly obeys regardless. Ash can only wonder if his knight finds all of this suspicious. So, Ash directly asks Lucas if he has any questions. The knight gets nervous under his gaze but firmly replies that he has zero doubts. He promises to be Ash's ultimate sword and shield. Lucas will simply strike and defend on command. Ash stares back, completely silent. It is hard to believe, but this is the knight's ultimate way of showing absolute trust. Our main character is deeply moved by this loyalty. He vows to give his knight massive power upgrades before asking if Lucas is ready to step into literal hell. Lucas proudly declares he will follow his master anywhere. Feeling satisfied, Ash activates the system portal and teleports them straight to the Black Lake, dissolving the gateway behind them. During transit, the system pops up a tip about finding rare gear inside dungeons to grow stronger. Ash just gets annoyed, grumbling about the game trying to act all cool and helpful now. They materialize at their destination. Standing on the shore, Ash looks around the eerie Black Lake, which serves as the main stronghold for the monsters. This hellish landscape is a literal nightmare, a massive dungeon blocking the southern region. Suddenly, Lucas yells that something is ahead. Bubbles rise as the water parts to form a pathway. Dozens of skeletal hands burst from the mud, pulling fully armored knights out of the ground. Ash is totally stunned. They are facing wandering armors. Ash curses his luck for being stuck in this useless body. Usually, he can easily handle low-tier goblins, mermaids, or even wyverns in Stage 1. But those are weaklings. These armored fiends are a different breed, and his usual gacha luck is completely gone. Lucas draws his blade to prepare for defense. Now pay attention to this terrifying warning from the system. Stage 1 features an unknown boss and over 1,000 level 5 wandering armors. Lucas checks on Ash, asking if he is alright. Ash is totally speechless, muttering that they said the exact same thing during the tutorial. They are completely doomed. Ash reset this game 741 times for various reasons, but whenever these armored spirits showed up, he restarted instantly. They are essentially hollow armor driven by pure malice. Basically, they have insane resistance to physical attacks. They are easy to deal with later in the game once you have high-tier elemental gear, but they currently have nothing. Ash can handle almost any enemy, but these guys are his absolute worst match. He can feel a heavy, sinister energy in the air, like the world itself is trying to ruin him. As the horde slowly marches forward, Ash realizes they still have 3 days before the wave officially begins. He orders a retreat to plan out their base defenses. Back in safety, Ash frantically calls for Eider. When the advisor arrives, Ash demands to know their troop count. Learning they only have 526 soldiers totally shocks him. Eider explains that most forces were wiped out during the tutorial. Ash calls him an idiot and desperately asks if they can hire reinforcements. But Eider says they have already hired every available mercenary nearby. There is literally nobody left to recruit in this region. Ash demands he send riders to other cities, offering double pay. He also orders a message sent to the Imperial Palace warning them of the monster activity. Asking the Empire for help now will trigger a disastrous event later in the game, but survival is their only priority. Ash tells Eider to just send the letter. Next, Ash orders all local craftsmen and alchemists to be summoned. Eider warns this will halt mana stone production, but Ash snaps, saying a ruined city will not need mana anyway. Eider nods and leaves, slamming the door. The sheer difficulty of this game is completely absurd. Ash opens up his system screen to find a solution. I know what you are thinking, but Ash has a plan. He chooses the beginner-level commander class to create as many tactical variables as possible. The system celebrates with virtual confetti, which only irritates Ash further. Suddenly, a sharp pain shoots through his chest. A terrifying notification warns that his stat growth is cut by 50%. He is completely bewildered. Another debuff restricts his skill slots by 50%. Ash screams at the sky, wondering if the system is actively trolling him. Furious at starting with such garbage penalties, he grabs a heavy iron wrench. Swearing it is his setup, he threatens to beat Eider up before his new skills finally unlock. He receives attack and defense totems along with super buffing skills. Ash silences his rage, looking at the screen. Can he really apply these buffs to everyone? This means just by standing on the field, he can weaken enemies and boost his entire army. That explains why the system slapped him with those heavy stat debuffs. His group's synergy class bonus will grant extra stat boosts based on his party members' professions. For a veteran gamer like him, this is easily the most overpowered class in the entire game. Ash calms down and hangs the wrench back up. The next morning, Eider reports that none of the craftsmen would cooperate. So Eider literally dragged the union representatives in by force. Ash sweat drops, realizing this is straight-up kidnapping. The blacksmith leader angrily demands answers. The carpentry chief yells that they cannot be locked up like criminals, asking who will take responsibility if their production lines collapse. The furious alchemist leader snaps that even royal blood has limits. As they yell in his face, Ash decides to use his trashy reputation to his advantage. He sneers, asking how these peasants dare raise their voices at him. He reminds them that when the prince of this realm commands, they should crawl. He threatens to execute them right then and there for treason. Terrified, the leaders immediately bow and beg for mercy. They have never dealt with ruthless royalty before. Sometimes, playing the villain is surprisingly convenient. Once they quiet down, Ash explains his defense plan. The shock leaders ask if he is serious. Ash calmly nods, offering them a sweet deal. He promises them 20% of all mana stones gathered by the military. This direct transaction is a massive win for everyone, provided they prioritize war manufacturing. Naturally, he will pay handsomely for their labor too. Ash grins, knowing money and exclusive rights are the perfect tools to bribe them into compliance. Sure, it is a bit corrupt, but the excited leaders immediately agree. The strategy works. Ash and Eider celebrate, knowing nothing talks louder than cold, hard cash. Meanwhile, the countdown ticks. In less than 3 days, the wandering armors will arrive. Lucas confirms that over 1,000 monsters are marching toward the city. A heavy gloom hangs over the soldiers. Lucas solemnly asks what they should do. Ash replies that they will fight with everything they have. And that is where we leave them ready to fight. Trust me, you are going to want to see this upcoming battle. Alright, let's dive into this epic defense where our main character Ash insists that keeping these undisciplined soldiers in line is his job, which Lucas agrees with. When Lily points out she is bound to a wheelchair, Ash reassures her that they desperately need her skills behind the scenes, far from the dangerous front lines. Still confused, she asks what her role is. Ash explains she will be supervising the repairs of their crucial tower defense magic artifacts. Ash silently notes that he cannot let her retire yet. As an officer of this fortress, her destiny is to work hard. Meanwhile, Jupiter puffs her cigar and brings up her favorite topic, her salary. Grinning, she asks for a massive raise if she delivers stellar results. This old lady is totally money-obsessed, a gold-loving trait pulled straight from the original game mechanics. Ash agrees, promising a performance-based bonus. She smiles smugly, telling him he better start budgeting for next year because no mercenary on the field is worth more gold than she is. With Jupiter leading the special forces, Eider hands a mysterious item to Damien. Ash reveals he customized this weapon specifically for the healer, a powerful level 10 crossbow. Damien eagerly accepts, taking on the role of their primary long-range sniper. He happily plays with the new weapon, and though his childish attitude is a bit concerning, Ash trusts him to deliver, just like he did with the cannons. Ash then asks Damien why he is not wearing his glasses anymore. The boy admits he ditched them because his actual eyesight is incredibly sharp. Turns out, he only wore them to nerf his own vision, but now he needs his full power. Ash feels a wave of relief looking at his squad, while Eider expresses his absolute joy. Eider was honestly tired of having 2 glasses-wearing characters on the team. Ash slams the table, telling him to shut up as they transition to inspection on the southern wall. Ash arrives at the construction site, greeting the foreman. When he asks about the progress, the response is grim. The defenses have been neglected for ages. Ash goes quiet, then furiously asks Eider why a famous fortress city has such a pathetic budget for basic wall maintenance. A sweating Eider explains they lacked funds because fewer monster kills meant fewer mana stones, so the previous lord cut the budget. Ash snaps, asking if this fortress was not built specifically to stop monsters. He cannot believe they abandoned the defenses over budget cuts. Screaming, he orders them to spare no expense or materials. The walls must be fortified until they are completely unbreakable. The workers agree, and Ash tells them to move fast because the horde is coming. Now, pay attention to his next desperate move. At the workshop, Ash announces his plan to build temporary barricades over the next 2 days. The head craftsman is confused as Ash drafts the required height. The carpenter warns that monsters will easily smash through wooden barriers. But Ash retorts that he does not need them to be fortress-level strong, they just need to erect the wooden panels. He barks that they must be tall and imposing. As the stunned team stares in silence, Ash commands them to stop questioning him and start building. For 2 days, Lucas drills the troops while Damien practices his sniping. Jupiter takes a peaceful nap. Ash plans with Eider, and Lily monitors the mana. Everything goes off without a single hitch. Time flies. On the southern walls, with just 30 minutes until Stage 1 kicks off, an ominous movement begins creeping along the distant horizon. The wandering armors are emerging from the woods. A guard screams the warning, striking an alarm to announce it. The monstrous legion marches forward, ready for blood. They are advancing rapidly in massive numbers toward the gate. Lighting a torch, Ash watches from the battlements and yells that there is nothing to fear, claiming the enemies only have numerical advantage, which is a total lie. These armors are actually the worst early-game threat. Ash rallies his troops, lying that they are the strongest army in the Southern Empire. Another massive lie. They are mostly raw rookies. He boasts that their defenses are flawless and their gear is peak tier. Also false, despite his heavy spending. Acting as a true leader, Ash screams that they can crush this threat, resorting to a desperate, loud bluff to boost morale. He orders everyone to hold the line so they can drink to victory tonight. But internally, nobody is sweating more than he is as dark clouds roll in with the horde. Ash smirks, putting all his faith in Jupiter. At this point, she holds half his strategy. In the woods, Jupiter channels a lightning-charged cloud and orders her squad to move, hooves thunder past the enemy lines. These monsters follow a simple, predictable AI pattern. Riding with a cigar in her teeth, Jupiter knows they instantly aggro onto any human in sight. With an open path, they always charge in a straight line toward their prey. Right on cue, the armors begin chasing her cavalry. Since their path is incredibly predictable, traps work like a charm. Watch closely as the armors tumble straight into a shallow trench. Ash screams for Jupiter to strike, and that is our cue. Jupiter channels her devastating lightning. Supremely confident, she mutters that it is time to earn her paycheck, unleashing massive electrical shockwaves directly into the trench, frying the trapped armors. As the smoke clears, the weakened monsters struggle down below. One armor glares up at Jupiter, who sneers, asking what it is staring at, barely even recognizing these weak-tier mobs. Charging up her magic once more, she draws the monster's gaze. Up on the wall, Ash is amazed by the raw surge. Even her cigar crackles with electricity as she jokes that dinner tonight is fried armor. Unleashing her ultimate spell, she screams at them to burn. On the high walls, the soldiers erupt in wild cheers. Ash watches her combo, noting how she marked them with her first skill before detonating them with her second. The kill count skyrockets, leaving Ash totally blown away by her absurd DPS. Dozens of armors lie shattered, but the rest keep marching. With 1,000 enemies, that blast barely dented the horde. Ash screams for Jupiter to pull back, and she orders her squad to retreat. The riders sprint toward the wall with the horde chasing them down. Feeling the heat, Jupiter yells at the squad to run faster and not look back. They bolt forward, desperate to outrun the threat. Ash tracks them closely, smiling as everything goes according to plan. He orders them to fall back as their reserve unit. One young rider glances back and panics at the sea of steel pursuing them. Just a little further, Jupiter yells that they are entering the funnel, and her squad confirms the plan. They charge straight through the gap and the newly built wooden barricades. Ash cheers as the gates slide shut. The monsters look up, suddenly realizing they are completely boxed in. Ash boasts that they have never faced a strategy like this before. Grinning, he wonders how they will react. They can either break the wood or detour, but Jupiter knows their basic programming. Kill any human on sight. True to their brainless AI, they ignore the wood and squeeze directly through the narrow gap to chase the retreating horses. Had the path been totally blocked, they would have broken the barriers. Instead, they pack tightly into the bottleneck. Ash commands the firing squad to ready their weapons. Thanking his troops for their patience, Ash orders them to open fire with everything. Cannons roar, launching heavy iron balls directly at the wandering armors. And that is how you win a perfect tower defense game, by drawing them exactly where we want them to be. Trust me, watching this plan come together with you is absolutely beautiful. Welcome back. You and I are about to watch Ash unleash absolute hell in the legendary Death Zone. Up on the wall, Damien thinks the bombardment is already overkill. But Ash, he just smiles and tells everyone the fun is barely starting. Look at that. The monsters actually start reorganizing, locking their shields together to form a defensive wall. But Ash knew they wouldn't go down that easily. They are tough bastards. And that is exactly what Ash prepared for. He yells at Lily to advance, and she instantly triggers her gravitational artifact. Suddenly, a massive glowing ring rises and floats high in the sky. The magic activates, trapping the beasts inside a heavy gravity dome that slows their movements to a crawl. Ash screams that the trap is set, ordering Lucas and his ballista unit to move in. The soldiers prep giant crossbows lined up along the wall. Lucas commands them to aim straight for the chests and signals to fire. Enormous iron arrows scream through the air. The impact shatters the monster's shields instantly, crushing them to the dirt. Ash keeps stacking the damage with crossfire, using the gravity field and his marksman to completely wipe them out. Everything goes perfectly by the book. But suddenly, a panicked knight rushes up to Ash. He reports that a group of monsters is flanking them, escaping the main firing zone entirely. There are way more enemies here than Ash ever expected. Without losing his cool, he calls for Jupiter, ordering her to intercept the wandering armors trying to slip past their wooden walls. With a confident smirk, Jupiter accepts and leads her cavalry forward. The monsters rush them at terrifying speeds, but Jupiter is already channeling raw, crackling electricity. She blasts her lightning into the crowd, triggering a massive explosion. Watching from the wall, Ash breathes a sigh of relief. With the right flank safe, he turns to Damien. It is his turn next. His target? The beasts swarming from the left. Now, watch closely as Damien crosses himself in prayer, then channels his holy magic directly into his massive crossbow. He pulls the trigger, sending a high-speed bolt straight through a monster's skull. The beast crumbles into dust. Damien celebrates his perfect shot, and Ash smiles, knowing the true power of Farsight magic. A basic weapon transformed into an absolute sniper rifle. Seriously, how broken is this cheat code? Now, the setup is complete death zone in the middle, Jupiter holding the right, and Damien guarding the left. The body count climbs rapidly, quickly reaching nearly 500. Things finally look winnable before the boss arrives. All their hard work is paying off. Suddenly, things take a dark turn. The spirits animating the armors escape and fly upward, gathering into a massive, swirling vortex in the sky. Ash is completely stunned. This never happened in the game. As the kill counter hits 500, the violent vortex begins shaping itself into a monstrous form. Ash stands frozen. It is the level 25 Spirit Knight boss. It hovers right before the wall, the terrifying source of the enemy's power. Defending against the initial army was hard enough, but now, Phase 2 has officially begun. The real nightmare is that the remaining grunt armors are still standing. Ash is completely stuck. Even worse, the boss hasn't made a single move since appearing. No devastating spells, no visual debuffs, just hovering silently. But in this real-world battle, that quiet presence is terrifying. The sight of the giant boss plunges the entire defense line into total panic. This is bad. Fighting monsters is nothing like fighting humans. It triggers a deep primal fear. The sheer pressure of the boss completely breaks the soldiers' spirits, causing their combat efficiency to plummet instantly. And the terror spreads to the mounts too. The war horses panic, throwing the cavalry into chaos. Jupiter tries desperately to regain control, but she fails. She gets thrown hard to the dirt, surrounded by hundreds of approaching monsters. Dazed from hitting her head, she struggles to focus. From the walls, Ash watches in absolute horror as the beasts close in to slaughter her. You and I can see the sheer desperation here. Her remaining cavalry riders form a desperate shield around her. Jupiter was their ultimate trump card, and now she is in grave danger. Lucas frantically yells to redirect the cannons to cover them. But Ash screams no. If they abandon the main death zone, the entire army will overwhelm them. Despite the panic running rampant on the walls, they cannot afford a single mistake. They have to keep the crossbows and cannon crossfires shooting at maximum capacity. Ash demands that Lucas snap the troops back into action. The terrified soldiers hesitate, while Ash prays that Jupiter survives. Down below, the old mage groggily blinks her eyes open. Ignoring the throbbing pain and the blood on her face, she grumbles about why an old lady has to suffer like this. A young soldier screams her name, begging her to wake up because they are completely out of time. Jupiter snaps back to her senses, watching her squad fight desperately for their lives. Furious at herself, she mutters that this is definitely not the time to be taking a nap on the dirt. The boy shouts that reinforcements are coming, but they have to hold the line. Suddenly, a monster lunges from behind him. He reacts instantly, smashing his weapon right into its skull. But the armor barely flinches and gears up to swing again. The boy grunts in frustration at the lack of damage, while Jupiter gasps and screams for him to look out behind him. A brutal blow sends him flying. He thought the area was clear, but a heavily damaged monster was crawling on the ground, dragging its broken body to kill them. More beasts close in. They slaughter the young soldier right before her eyes. Enraged, Jupiter tries to channel her lightning, but her mana is completely unstable. Nearby, another young girl is caught and instantly torn apart. Seeing the slaughter, another soldier tries to flee, but a monster spots him and hurls a massive spear. The weapon pierces him straight through. Jupiter can only watch the horror unfold. Their entire defensive squad is wiped out in seconds. As the monsters close in on Jupiter, she is hit with a foul stench of rusted iron and stagnant swamp water, the smell of rotting corpses. But Jupiter's sparks begin to crackle again. She snarls that they should have stayed at the bottom of the lake, asking if they are just jealous of an old lady making easy money. She fires off a quick blast, blowing the front line back, but she is completely drained. That was a desperate escape move. Using barely half of her normal power, they are in deep trouble. She screams at the last surviving mercenary to run while he still has a chance. Confused, he hesitates, but she tells him they are all dead anyway, so he must save himself. She promises to burn her remaining mana to buy him time. But the kid refuses, shouting the second rule of mercenary survival: always stick with the mage. Running on foot without a horse is suicide anyway. His odds are better protecting her than fleeing. Jupiter is stunned as the young soldier executes a brilliant move. Instead of trying to slaughter the massive horde, he focuses entirely on pushing them back. He vows to do whatever it takes to buy her a few seconds, begging her to charge up her next magic spell. From the high wall, Damien fires his crossbow to provide cover, but his bolts cannot stop the entire swarm. There's not enough time. The horde overwhelms the brave young mercenary, brutally tearing him apart. Jupiter screams in absolute rage. Furious lightning rains down from the sky, vaporizing the surrounding monsters. Heartbroken, Jupiter gazes at the devastation, wondering if she could have saved that boy if only she had been faster. The dying boy coughs up blood. Sadly, Jupiter is too old to carry the burden of every fallen soldier on her shoulders. She kneels beside him and softly asks for the third rule of mercenary survival. Shivering, he whispers that you should never take a job that pays way too much money. As tears fill his eyes, more monsters rush in. Trust me, you and I are about to see her prove all those rules completely wrong. She tells him that to get rich or win honor, you must take the dangerous jobs with the highest payouts. With that, Jupiter unleashes her ultimate electric wrath upon the incoming horde once more. All right, you and I are jumping right into a brutal fight where our veteran mage Jupiter takes down monsters back to back, warning that staying near mages means they steal all your credit. But look closely, her hand is already bleeding from overusing her power. The old veteran mutters that anyone wanting to survive should never become a mercenary in the first place. She tries sparking up her cigar, but her drained mana cannot even manage a tiny flame. With more beasts closing in, Jupiter sighs that she was hoping for a bonus payout, but this looks like the end. Suddenly, a horse gallops and it is Lucas, drawing his blade to slaughter her attackers. The old mage is shocked as Lucas glances her way. Meanwhile, just moments ago up on the high walls, Prince Ash was screaming at his terrified soldiers to pull themselves together. He orders them not to fear the massive boss, activating his indomitable commander skill. Instantly, the panicked soldiers rally back to their defense lines. Ash stands shocked, realizing his own hidden system power just triggered this massive change. His skill grants all allies within 10 meters immunity to mental attacks. Ash immediately calls for Lucas, planning to stabilize the troops and reclaim their broken death zone. Meanwhile, Lucas must lead a desperate rescue squad to pull Jupiter out. Ash is ordering him straight into the lethal death corridor to save their allies, easily the most reckless command he has ever given. Lucas accepts without a single second of hesitation, promising a swift return. He mounts his horse, charging straight toward Jupiter while Ash fights to keep his defensive line from collapsing. Plunging fiercely into the horde, Lucas cuts down the monsters and grabs a startled Jupiter. Telling her to hold on tight, he yanks her up by the collar, throws her onto the saddle, and gallops back to safety. The roaring monsters launch a volley of high-speed spears at them, but Lucas deflects them effortlessly mid-air with his sword. As they ride, Jupiter calls out to her rescuer over the chaos. She jokingly offers to introduce him to her lovely granddaughter. Lucas bluntly replies that if she has the breath to matchmake, she should focus on restoring her mana, making the old woman laugh. He is always devoted to his master, but cold to everyone else when the prince is away. When she thanks him, he dryly states he is only executing orders, keeping his eyes locked ahead. Lucas apologizes for his late arrival, but Jupiter snaps that they can regret things after wiping out these beasts. Nearing the wall, she grumbles that she cannot even remember the last time she was this angry. Now pay attention here, because even though Ash successfully resets his defense zone and spots Lucas returning, the cost is devastating. He has already lost 4 precious hero-tier units from Jupiter's squad. Ash realizes he relied too heavily on his gamer memories. Sure, the game featured morale mechanics like fear and confusion, but reality is a completely different beast. Real-world reactions are infinitely more complex. For instance, he never predicted the cavalry horses would completely panic. In this new reality, he must account for every single unpredictable variable. And here comes another brutal dose of reality. Flaming projectile impacts ignite the wooden barricades, sending them crumbling to ash. Just like that, their crucial death zone is utterly destroyed. Hundreds of terrifying wandering armors charge forward at breakneck speed. Now, a desperate melee battle on the fortress walls is inevitable, completely ruining Ash's hopes of winning with raw, ranged firepower. Even with 775 monsters dead, Ash barely maintains control. Lucas arrives, delivering Jupiter safe and sound. He might dislike her dishonorable military past, but he knows better than to disrespect a powerful mage. Ash welcomes her back with relief, but a guilt-ridden Jupiter confesses her shame. Her tactical mistake got her entire squad of young recruits needlessly slaughtered. Deep in despair, Ash tries comforting her, saying nobody could foresee an airborne giant appearing or the horses losing control. It was not her fault, but the veteran stubbornly insists it was. Decades of battlefield experience mean she should have handled it. Now, she vows to redeem her failure by personally ensuring that Absolute Boss is blown to pieces. Ash advises her to recover her mana quickly, since he needs her heavy artillery soon. As the horde presses on, cannon fire rains down until Ash realizes their death zone boundaries are gone and orders an immediate ceasefire. The artillery falls silent. Ash orders Damien to take a rest. Although the healer tries to protest, Ash insists he must save his strength to take down a much larger threat later. And here is where you and I witness the worst-case scenario. The wandering armors reach the fortress base and scale the walls, forcing Ash to scream for his terrified men to prepare for hand-to-hand combat. He orders his reserve troops straight to the front line. With magic out of the equation, they must hold the line with raw muscle and steel. This is real war now, and the soldiers brace for impact. Hundreds of relentless monsters scale the stone barricades with bare hands. The anxious defenders grip their weapons, waiting with bated breath as the climbing creatures draw closer and closer to the top. Ash tells his knights to hold fast and wait for his command. Amidst the eerie, metal-scraping screeches of the monsters, Ash finally bellows the order to drop their defenses. The men heave heavy barrels and massive stone debris Ash had stored beforehand, dumping them over the edge. The falling wreckage smashes into the climbing monsters, sending dozens plummeting back down. Despite being crushed by heavy boulders below, the surviving monsters simply pick themselves back up. They are insanely resilient, climbing right back up as if they did not just take a direct hit. The defenders stab downwards with spears to repel them while Ash slots Jupiter into his primary squad. He triggers their team's synergy skill, granting complete morale, immunity, and a massive 20% power boost to all magic attacks. This massive magic boost is exactly what Ash needs. However, the advancing monsters begin snapping the soldiers' wooden spears like twigs as they finally swarm over the fortress crest. An enormous army of roaring beasts awaits them. Ash sweats nervously, realizing they have no choice left but to engage in bloody, close-quarters combat. His knights brace themselves, but Ash doubts they can hold. Suddenly, a blinding flash of energy erupts as Lucas obliterates a wave of enemies. Pausing, he boldly declares he will carve a path through every last monster. He orders the army to simply hold their ground and push the beasts back. The soldiers roar in agreement, easing Ash's anxiety. Success is not a question, they must win to survive. These soldiers must grow stronger on the battlefield. With no other options left, Ash commands Lily to trigger their next card. The young girl nods, activating their speed-boosting acceleration artifact. The buff takes effect, granting all knights a 5% speed increase for 5 minutes. Ash seizes this window to deploy both his offensive and defensive totems to bolster their front line. His men push back hard, desperately trying to lock down the breach. Ash watches anxiously, placing his hopes on them. Humans and beasts clash violently as Lucas tirelessly slashes through the horde. Ash observes Lucas utilizing his primary active skill, which stacks in power with every single kill. Right now, this absolute beast is single-handedly holding down an entire half of the wall. Yet, one man cannot stop an entire tide alone. The defense line is fracturing. Wandering armors are butchering the soldiers, and unlike the endless enemy forces, their own casualties are rapidly mounting. Damien declares he is ready to rejoin the fray, but Ash stops him. He needs his healer and Jupiter fully charged for the upcoming boss fight, leaving him torn on how to survive this wave. Ash desperately seeks a path to minimize casualties when a sudden, blinding flash erupts across the battlefield. A massive pillar of fire materializes, culminating in a colossal explosion that completely stuns him. It is Lily, wheelchair and all, rolling onto the ramparts to unleash her devastating magic. Ash excitedly cheers her combat genius, but while he gladly promises her a massive raise, Lily dryly grumbles that she just wants her retirement. Grabbing her wheelchair, Ash promises a massive performance bonus if she can just squeeze out one more wave of hellfire. The girl screams that she wants her pension as she is completely out of mana, but Ash begs for one final shot. And trust me, you and I are going to love seeing her blast the horde one last time. Alright, you and I are diving right into the action, where the team's synergy jumps by 20% and Lily's fireball power is boosted by 25%. Talk about a human flamethrower. She snaps back, begging him to treat her like a real human. Meanwhile, the frontline soldiers hold the line as Lucas slashes ahead and Lily unleashes her blazing magic. The hollow armors crumble to pieces. Silence falls over the battlefield and the soldiers start to cheer. But Ash yells that it's not over yet, leaving a panting Lucas confused. Ash warns everyone to stay on guard because the real threat has arrived. High in the air, a massive entity starts vacuuming up all the discarded armor plates, slowly taking on a terrifying shape. The swirling energy solidifies into a colossal phantom knight. It rockets down from the heavens, slamming into the earth with an impact that makes the entire world shake. Panic sets in as Ash wonders how on earth this can be a Stage 1 boss. The towering Soul Knight looms directly over them, staring right back at him. Trembling, he forces down his fear, reminding himself it is only a level 25 boss. He can handle this. Immediately, he orders the defensive cannons to open fire. He screams at the gunners to give it everything they've got. Direct hits rain down on the behemoth, but it shrugs them off, slowly advancing toward their lines. Ash yells to keep the barrage going before the knight breaches the wall, but the attacks barely slow it down. Desperate, he commands Lily to activate the third artifact. She triggers the artificial mana amplifier, boosting the target's energy reserves by 100%. The recipient is Jupiter, who smiles as raw power surges through her veins, making her feel young again. Ash screams for her to focus every ounce of that power on the beast. Stepping to the edge, the old mage readies her spell, teasingly warning him to watch out for stray shocks. Now pay attention, because Jupiter unleashes her ultimate lightning spell directly from the dark clouds above, striking the Titan and making it roar in pure agony. As its outer armor shatters, a glowing blue core is exposed on its chest. Ash quickly calls on Damien, who loads a heavy ballista and locks onto the critical weakness. He pulls the trigger, sending a massive bolt straight through the core, shattering it. Ash cheers, thinking the battle is won, but the Phantom somehow begins to stand right back up. Ash's jaw drops. How is that not enough? The Colossus raises its colossal blade for an attack that will completely level the fortress if it connects. He screams for Jupiter. The old woman just chuckles, mockingly asking the monster why it would raise a giant metal sword in the middle of a lightning storm. She yells that the idiot is begging to get fried. A massive lightning strike channels through its blade, sending millions of volts straight through its body until it starts to stumble. The giant tilts forward, collapsing directly toward the rampart. Ash screams for everyone to dive for cover, and Lucas pulls him back just before the beast crushes them. The impact is deafening, throwing nearby guards backward. Once the dust settles, Ash groans in pain, rubbing his back. Lucas checks on him, but Ash only cares about the wall's condition. Looking over, they gasp. The giant's massive sword is wedged deep in the stone. Slowly, the spectral knight turns to ash and smoke, leaving nothing but empty, heavy armor piled outside the walls. Suddenly, a swarm of lingering spirits rises from the wreckage. Lucas warns him, but Ash tells him it's fine. He knows this game pattern by heart. It is the boss's final wide-area strike, designed to spread massive panic and mental corruption without actually dealing physical damage. Looking the ghosts dead in the eye, Ash declares this human land and activates his indomitable commander's skill. A blinding aura erupts, purging the dark spirits into nothingness. You can imagine the soldiers' shock as the massive monster and spirits vanish, leaving them to realize the prince saved them. Finally, the sun breaks through the clouds. As the Empire's flag flies, Ash raises his fists, shouting that they won and survived. He promises they will keep winning, though the exhausted soldiers just watch him in stunned silence. The fear in their eyes melts away. Lucas smiles, watching the empty void of dread transform into genuine relief, all thanks to Ash's commanding charisma and passive skills. Sincerity rings in his voice as he commands them to survive. With Stage 1 officially cleared, Ash checks his inventory to see what sweet rewards he just unlocked. Best of all, Jupiter officially joins his roster. By that afternoon, the city square transforms into a massive, lively victory feast. Raising his cup, Ash toasts to their hard-earned survival and victory. Everyone cheers along as the prince yells that all the food and drinks are completely on him tonight. The feast kicks off with loud music, laughter, and endless food. Some soldiers even start arm wrestling, while Ash sits back, watching the peaceful scene with a satisfied smile. Lucas approaches, offering him a plate since Ash hasn't eaten all day. He points out that Ash doesn't exactly look like a legendary commander who just secured an epic victory. They wiped out 1,000 armored monsters with almost zero casualties. Lucas says he should be celebrating, but Ash just stares quietly, agreeing they technically got off easy. But when Ash takes a sip of his drink, he immediately spit takes. Lucas asks if he is poisoned, but Ash gasps, complaining that this stuff is way stronger than mild beer. Regaining his composure, Ash murmurs that even if they won, they still lost real lives. To him, every single life holds equal weight, so there is no such thing as an easy victory. He knows saving everyone in a brutal survival game is mathematically impossible. Still, he feels that if he had just planned a bit better, those soldiers would still be alive. This was not a tutorial level where he could just wing it. Lowering his cup, the heavy, crushing weight of reality finally starts sinking in. Lucas gently reminds him that self-blame won't change the past. He knows words cannot erase regret, but this is a victory party. If the commander looks depressed, the men's morale will tank. He urges Ash to put on a smile, even if it is forced. Reluctantly, Ash realizes that pretending to be happy is just another duty of being the commander. Suddenly, Eider pops up with a massive plate, startling Ash. He agrees with Lucas, arguing that while honoring the fallen is important, they must also celebrate the living. Since eating nothing but meat is bad for the prince, Eider piles his plate with heaps of fresh greens, completely ignoring that Ash hasn't touched a single bite yet. Eid cheerfully congratulates Ash on clearing the brutal first stage. Ash quietly picks up a cherry tomato, and Eid suddenly screams that the picky prince is actually eating a vegetable. As Ash sits there utterly bewildered, Id keeps yelling that His Highness is forced to eat raw greens because there is no meat around. The entire crowd panics. Soldiers desperately pile mountains of cooked meats in front of him, begging for forgiveness. Ash sweats, wondering what kind of trash food diet his character's predecessor lived on, while people yell for more alcohol. Suddenly, he is the center of a wild, chaotic party. Trust me, you and I can definitely relate to just wanting a quiet moment to reflect. Suddenly, a trembling Lily approaches him, wearing a forced, shaky smile while begging to retire. But our main character just tells her to get back to work. All right, you and I are diving right back into this chaotic mess. Our main character cannot understand why she wants to retire during this financial crisis, so he promises her a raise. But then, 200 shadow figures snatch Lily away. As she screams about retirement, Gammon just giggles and calls for Ash. The kid giggles, complaining that his water tastes weird. Ash immediately realizes that is definitely not water and demands to know who gave booze to a child. Right next to Damien, Jupiter is happily refilling his cup. Ash asks what on earth she is doing, but the old woman argues that Damien is a proper mercenary who needs to learn how to drink, smoke, and blow cash. Jupiter promises to treat him just like her own grandson. Ash calls her a terrible grandmother for teaching a kid those awful habits. Drunk Damien just giggles and slumps onto Ash's shoulder. Surprised, Ash wonders how this kid dares to lean on a prince like him. He has serious guts. Suddenly, looking depressed, Damien confesses he keeps seeing his dead friend's face. He cannot stop replaying that terrible day, and the haunting guilt that he does not deserve to survive tortures him every single night. Yet, being near Ash somehow brings him peace, making him want to stay by his side forever. With that, Damien passes out on the table. Ash knows it is not because he is some saintly hero. It is simply his passive skill at work. Naturally, he cannot reveal that secret. Smiling, Jupiter chimes in, mentioning her own mana grew stronger after following Ash, wondering if it is because of his incredible leadership. But Ash secretly knows it is just his broken team synergy skill. He activated a 25% buff during the fight, though he obviously can't share that either. Lucas speaks up next, admitting that his mind stops racing and his heavy burdens vanish whenever he is around Ash. Shaking, Ash asks if that is the real reason Lucas never leaves his side. Embarrassed, the knight mutters that he does not know, a surprisingly cute answer from a model warrior like Lucas. Soon, the crowd toasts to their fallen brothers, to the survivors, and finally to Ash himself. As they crowd around, Ash nervously asks what is happening when a soldier notices his full mug. The prince claims he is feeling unwell, causing everyone to panic and weep, apologizing for not making the party exciting enough for him. The original prince was notorious for non-stop drinking. Our main character wonders how anyone could be famous for partying 7 days a week, questioning what kind of trash life this guy lived. His soldiers dramatically cry out that they do not deserve to live, begging the prince to execute them on the spot. Ash frantically tries to calm them down, realizing they just want him to drink. Ash downs the entire mug, warning them to be ready for the consequences of peer pressuring their commander. We can finally watch them smile together as they feast, sing, and drink late into the night. Their victory celebration runs deep. Later, a heavily intoxicated Ash stumbles into his room, complaining about being drunk. Flopping onto his bed, he decides to open his hard-earned reward chest before passing out. He cracks open the first chest, hoping for an epic, high-tier armor set. Instead, he pulls out a single glove. Ash starts grinning from ear to ear, unable to believe his eyes. He shakes with anticipation, muttering that this cannot be real. Out of all the legendary, super rare weapons available, he got the Lucky Strike glove, which offers a pathetic 1% gambling boost. Its damage output is completely random, decided by a slot machine roulette. He used to play with it for stream views, but in a real-life deathmatch, absolutely useless. Disgusted, he drops it, trying to stay positive. It is not like he cannot sell it or pass it to someone else. He slips the glove on, realizing it fits perfectly, almost like second skin. Maybe he will find a casino later. He must keep his chin up. Still, the prince is furious. Countless other items could have made his survival 100 times easier, so staying positive is impossible. He stares at a gold-tier item, agonizing over his terrible luck before finally drifting off. Waking up late the next afternoon, Ash stumbles to his door, begging for someone to save his aching head. A cheerful Lucas walks over, thrilled to see his lord finally awake. Ash asks why Lucas did not take the morning off, but the bodyguard insists he could never abandon his duty, despite being visibly hungover. Suddenly, Eider marches up, booming a loud good morning. Ash wonders how this guy can be so damn energetic. He offers them hot honey water, which the miserable duo eagerly chugs down. Feeling revived, the prince decides it is time to prep for the next stage. They head to the broken wall to inspect the massive sword wedged deep inside the stone. Ash warns that in this state, they cannot even stop wild forest animals, let alone bloodthirsty monsters, asking how long the repairs will take. The builder estimates over 2 weeks because extracting that giant blade is brutal. Now think about this, the next stage begins in just 9 days and 20 hours. Ash orders every single uninjured soldier to assist with construction starting tomorrow. Time is running out. He then turns to Eider, asking how their plans for military recruitment are progressing. A nearby territory is dispatching troops, and their royal capital messenger returns tomorrow. This leaves them entirely hands-tied for today. While Ash can manage basic upgrades, raising a massive army is currently out of his reach. He instructs Eider to report any developments instantly, while he and Lucas handle whatever preparations they can on their own. Ash declares they must invade the dungeon directly to eliminate the monster source. When a confused Lucas asks if they are teleporting back to the lake, Ash confirms it, but specifies they are diving straight underneath it with the squad. It is time to transition this game from a stressful tower defense into an epic dungeon crawl. Dismissing the assembly, Ash tells everyone to rest up for tomorrow's dangerous mission. He merely informs his core team that they are embarking on a morning expedition, believing first-hand experience beats a complicated explanation. Meanwhile, Damien bids them a cheerful, highly excited farewell. A tearful Lily whimpers in fear, making Ash feel guilty. However, the dungeon limit is strictly 5 people, so he cannot afford to bench her. He quickly asks Eider to prep their expedition supplies. When the aide asks what to gather, Ash requests rations, camping gear, endless health potions, and every single lantern, lamp, or torch available. They need absolutely anything that can pierce the dark. The following morning, in the mansion's quiet backyard, a suspicious Jupiter senses this journey is far more dangerous than a simple trip and asks for their destination. As the stone floor begins to warp and shift, Ash cryptically smiles. A massive magic circle blazes to life, leaving Jupiter utterly dumbfounded. She gasps that this spell was lost centuries ago, demanding to know how he cast it. Ash silently notes that she will understand soon enough. Ash announces that this gateway leads straight into the monster's lair beneath the pitch-black lake, right into the heart of their subterranean kingdom. They must scout the area to uncover what is driving these endless hordes. Only by locating and annihilating the root cause can they halt the terrifying invasions forever. That is the ultimate goal of this survival game. Telling the team to stick close, Ash selects their coordinates inside his holographic system interface. Lucas frantically yells for his lord to let him scout ahead, but the reckless prince has already leaped into the vortex. Ash is confident it is safe. Suddenly, a useless system tip pops up explaining that experience points raise combat stats, drawing an annoyed sigh from him. Within moments, they arrive at their destination. Jupiter gasps as they materialize right at the edge of the dark waters. Ash inquires if she has visited this place before. She nods, remembering her time with the Imperial military station here 20 years back. Stunned, Ash asks if they genuinely attempted to dump dirt into this bottomless lake, scoffing at how unbelievably moronic their old military commander must have been. An entire court of mages was summoned to transport endless loads of soil into the depths. Yet, it was completely useless. No matter how much earth they threw in, the water swallowed it whole. This spawned terrifying rumors that the lake was a direct gateway to hell. A week later, nightmare-inducing swarms of monsters crawled out, completely routing the army and forcing them to abandon the mission in utter failure. She had never dared to return until today. Ash tells the team to brace themselves because they are going deep under. As the system asks to confirm entry into the Lake Kingdom, he clicks yes. A final warning flashes, stating there is no turning back once they enter the dungeon. Smiling, Ash scoffs at the prompt, ready for action. Trust me. You and I are about to see him break this game completely. All right, you and I are jumping right into the action as a massive whirlpool opens, marking the entrance. Ash screams for everyone to follow and dives in. Entering the dungeon, a system warning pops up. Carelessness is the #1 killer here. Down below, it is pitch black. Ash cannot see a single thing in this suffocating darkness, but he can definitely hear something lurking deep within the shadows. He feels the shadow closing in. Suddenly, A voice calls out for His Highness. It is Lucas, frantically searching for him, and Ash quickly replies that he is right here. Ash tells everyone to relax and light up the area. Lucas ignites his torch, and the rest quickly follows suit, but an eerie noise keeps echoing. Lily panics, while Lucas and Jupiter instantly brace for impact. Lucas asks where exactly they ended up. Ash explains this is the Stranded Kingdom, the dungeon deep under the lake. Basically, it is the monster-infested lair they have to clear out right now. Standing in the sunken kingdom, Ash realizes he can breathe and move completely normally. He figures it must be some kind of ancient spell protecting the ruins. Lily wonders how an entire city fits down here and why they can walk so easily. Lucas tells her to shut up because footsteps are echoing in their direction. A shadow emerges in the distance, putting everyone on high alert. The hooded figure slowly walks closer. Ash tells his team to relax since she does not look hostile. He figures she's just an NPC meant to guide them. The girl stops, asking if they came to rob the Lake Kingdom treasures. Ash is totally caught off guard. The blue-eyed girl warns that they will not find anything here, advising them to leave while they are still breathing. Ash gets incredibly tense. He has never seen her before. Pay close attention here, because this dungeon is a literal hell containing over 100 NPCs. Usually, a random guide is normal, but across his 742 playthroughs, he has absolutely never encountered this girl. Something is seriously wrong. Still, he decides to play along. Ash explains they came from the surface to wipe out the source of the monsters. The girl remains completely silent and dead serious. Ash adds that innocent people above are suffering terribly because of the beasts rising from this deep abyss, and they are here to end this nightmare. Looking bored, the girl mutters that this kingdom's nightmare is eternal. Nobody ever wakes up. Elite warriors and legendary heroes have tried to conquer this place, but they all ended up failing miserably. She warns them to turn back before the abyss swallows them whole and robs them of their sanity. Ash just laughs it off internally. If scary warnings could stop him, he would have uninstalled this game ages ago. He proudly introduces himself as the Lord of the Crossroads, declaring his absolute duty to protect the city and shield humanity from these vicious beasts. So, a little darkness is not going to scare him away. He has to crush the monster's source, but there is one massive problem: the giant locked gate. He asks if she knows another path inside. She stares at him quietly before agreeing to lead them, wanting to see if his speech was fueled by genuine courage or just foolish, reckless bravado. The girl begins walking, telling them to follow closely. When Ash asks for her name, she gives him a sorrowful look, admitting she has forgotten it. She tells him to simply call her Nameless. They trail behind Nameless for 20 minutes outside the walls. Lucas whispers that trusting a complete stranger is highly dangerous and smells like a trap, but Ash tells him to relax. The group marches onward until Nameless halts, pointing out their entry point. It looks like an old drainage tunnel that leads straight into the city. She warns them that the path is incredibly slippery. They trek through the smelly sewers for 5 minutes until they finally emerge. Welcome to District 1, the dry sewer, the official entrance to the Sunken Kingdom. It is the city's main drainage area, yet it is totally bone dry. Using magic, Ash rearranges the stones to summon a portal, establishing a secure connection to the base. Now, you and I both know a safe zone base means no monsters can get in, right? It is time to start, with the system prompting 3 main destinations. Lily whimpers and begs to turn back, but Ash is not having it. He did not hoard all these supplies just to quit now. Nameless announces her guide duty is officially over. Ash offers a quick thank you. Before disappearing, Nameless issues a final chilling warning: this kingdom is fully corrupted by nightmares. The deeper they descend, the darker it gets, making the monsters infinitely stronger. If they truly want to plunge into the abyss, she has one golden rule: never let their torches burn out. Ash stays completely silent. She wishes them luck and vanishes. As they watch her leave, Lucas cannot help but wonder who that strange woman actually was and how she survives down here. Damien nervously admits that this dark atmosphere feels alive, and even his special eyes cannot pierce it. Worried, he wonders how on earth that girl was navigating around without a single light source. Ash does not have an answer since this place is shrouded in mystery. Not even he, the guy who conquered the ultimate Iron Man mode, has a clue. But he is positive they will cross paths with Nameless again, and then they can get their answers. Whether they meet again as trusted allies, bitter rivals, or something far worse remains to be seen. Turning to his squad, he asks if they are ready. Base camp is secure. The interface displays District 1 progress: 0 out of 3 rooms cleared and 0 out of 1 boss slain. Looking at his crew, this should be a total breeze. They press onward. Lucas notes this corridor connects directly to the main sewer, asking how deep it goes. Ash reassures him that they will hit the end shortly. Dungeons or basic corridors lead to rooms where battles rage, loot drops, or characters spawn. Right now, they are hunting for their first major encounter. Stepping into room number 1, a monstrous rat leaps from the shadows. Soon, 14 level 3 rats surround them. Ash warns against being careless, but he knows they can handle this easily. Lily shrieks in absolute terror at the sight of the pests. Ash commands Lucas to hold the front line and execute any rat that dares to breach their defense. He orders Damien to aim for their weak spots, like the eyes and neck, since their skulls are rock hard. They must conserve magic for later, only striking beasts that slip past Lucas, while Ash carefully tracks the battlefield. Lucas slashes the rodents with blazing speed while Damien snipes them easily. Within seconds, the horde is wiped out. Ash calls it easy, and Damien agrees. Lucas counts 13 kills, asking if they should harvest the mana stones. Ash is about to decline when a chilling thought hits him. They killed 13, but the system registered 14. Out of nowhere, a stray rat ambushes Ash from behind. He shrieks, running away as his damage roulette spins frantically. He flings the beast, smashing it to pieces against the brick wall. The party is stunned. It was his lucky strike glove, though a proc like that is super rare. Lucas asks if he is alright, then demands to know how he just one-shot a monster. Ash panics internally, desperately trying not to leak any game secrets. He casually claims it was the legendary punch of a prince, leaving his entire party completely baffled. Keeping a straight face, Ash explains that royalty unlocks hidden superpowers during emergencies. He prays they buy this ridiculous excuse. Lucas looks genuinely awed, while the others just awkwardly shrug it off. They arrive at the second room of the dry sewer, which seems entirely vacant. Ash suspects hidden secrets, ordering everyone to split up and search every nook and cranny. Damien spots something, and look at that, it is a treasure chest. Ash warns him about traps, but Jupiter's gold-obsessed trait instantly triggers. And trust me, you and I are about to see absolute chaos. You and I are about to see if a greedy old lady gets our main character killed by a trap. But as she opens the chest, a bright light shines, revealing just normal treasure. Realizing her greed showed, Jupiter quickly apologizes, claiming she just cannot help herself when cash is involved. She hands the chest to Ash with a grin, but he notices she already pocketed a few gold coins anyway. In the third room of the sewer, they easily wipe out 12 level 3 rats. With that done, they finally reach the end and halt right in front of the final gate. The boss room lies ahead. Once they clear this, they can finally head back to the crossroads, so they must hold strong. As the doors creak open, they find dead rats everywhere and a horrible stench. A massive monster sits right in the center of the room. It mutters about exterminating the plague of rats, screaming that the Lake Kingdom must stay clean and pure. The twist? This giant beast is actually a massive rat itself. Damien is shocked to hear the monster speaking. Overhearing him, the giant creature turns, growling that it thought it already killed off every single rat. The system alerts Ash that they are facing a level 15 giant ratman boss. The monster shrieks that rats keep spawning no matter how many he kills, but Ash recognizes this beast. It is Pele, the sewer manager. Ash wonders why a ratman has a human name. Charging forward, the boss screams that he will wipe them out. Before a nervous Ash can even give an order, Lily blasts the monster with her flame magic. Set ablaze, the ratman rolls on the floor, shrieking in pure agony. Panicking, Lily keeps spamming her fire spells, screaming at the beast to stay away until it finally stops moving completely. As the monster whimpers on the ground, calling Lily a horrible rat, Jupiter steps up to finish it. Wishing the beast sweet dreams, she fires a devastating bolt of lightning straight at his head. The boss gets violently electrocuted, screaming in absolute agony before collapsing lifeless. Ash is stunned by how fast it ended. This dual mage combo completely shredded the first boss of the game, exactly as he planned. Since the beast had zero magic resistance, pure physical attacks would have made this a nightmare. Lily, still shaken, asks if they can finally get out of here. Ash nods but tells her to take a deep breath. She cannot calm down with dead rats everywhere. As they approach the boss chest, Ash quickly orders Lucas to hold back a greedy Jupiter. The old woman yells to be let down, demanding some respect for the elderly. Ash excitedly opens the loot chest and pulls out a highly useful rat sword. He hands it to Lucas, who eagerly thanks him. Though it is nothing compared to his favorite blade, Ash instructs him to keep it handy just in case. Lucas nods in agreement. Now pay attention here, because this find is the sole reason he entered this dungeon. He grabs a scroll for the auto-defense discharge skill, then calls for an immediate exit. Lily cheers as the system confirms District 1 is fully cleared. They head down the corridor past the boss room, finally reaching the very exit of this dark, smelly sewer system. This is where the real Lake Kingdom begins in District 2, the Hidden Alley. Ash is stunned by the scale. There are too many sprawling streets for this to be a simple corridor. An advanced magical city, hidden in the depths, reveals the true nature of this stranded kingdom. But there are no lights, no signs of life. Just absolute silence and a massive ocean of pitch-black darkness. A single lamppost flickers on, registering Ash to the District 2 base. The system warns that he cannot enter the next zone yet. He had no plans to go there today anyway, since they would get eaten alive. Turning to his tired group, he praises their hard work and calls it a day. Activating his teleportation magic to return to the Lord's Manor, the system rewards him with items and displays their updated level statuses. Suddenly, a mysterious man in a hat materializes under the lamppost. Surprised by the speed of the last player, he plays a haunting tune on his flute, summoning hundreds of screeching rats. Surrounded by a massive swarm, the man commands them to repent for their sins for the sake of the Lake Kingdom. Meanwhile, our team exits their portal, safely back at the crossroads. Ash commends their efforts and tells everyone to rest. But Jupiter admits she cannot relax, unable to wrap her head around the massive hidden city built right beneath the lake. Staring at Ash, she asks if he has any secrets to share with them, but he simply replies that he has nothing for them at the moment.
Now I know what you are thinking. He beat the game, so he should know everything, right? But he never actually figured out why this kingdom fell. This time, he is determined to uncover the truth.
Since they must unravel this mystery step by step, Jupiter mutters that she has no plans of staying sober tonight and desperately needs a drink. Lily quickly agrees, admitting she will never fall asleep without getting totally drunk. Jupiter drags Lily away to show her a great local pub. Meanwhile, Damien decides to head back to the temple, hoping Pran can help soothe his deep fear of that creepy underworld darkness. Ash nods and bids him good night, then turns to Lucas, suggesting that they should also head back to get some well-deserved sleep. Lucas wonders why they are returning to the dungeon instead of scouting the next defense ward for monsters. Ash explains they already found them. The sewer rat army they just fought is destined to invade from the Lake Kingdom. First, the rats will occupy the exploration zone. Once they cross a critical threshold, they will submerge into the lake, crawl out, and launch a full-scale invasion of the city. So, the beasts they fight during exploration are the actual army they must defend against. A highly impressed Lucas enters the palace with Ash, who loudly calls for the butler Eider to prepare food and baths. Eider rushes over in a panic, warning Ash that they are in deep trouble. When asked what is wrong, the butler drops a bombshell. No reinforcements are coming from the capital or nearby cities. Ash asks why, but is interrupted by Lucas's loudly growling stomach. Ash sighs, realizing there is no point stressing over this news right now, since they cannot do anything about it immediately. Deciding to discuss it tomorrow, Ash demands food. The next morning, Ash sits down with Eider to get a clear explanation about this lack of backup. Eider explains that because of the active war on the Western Front, the Empire moved all spare troops to key areas. That leaves them with zero reinforcements, which Ash finds incredibly suspicious. The Empire is constantly at war year-round, yet they chose this exact moment to withdraw remote troops, specifically right when he sent a formal request for backup. It makes no sense. Ash asks if they have hired any new mercenaries. Eider replies that he is trying, but recruitment is slow since only a few days have passed since their last brutal battle. Slots are barely filled. As Ash wonders what to do, he notices Eider smiling. Asking the butler if he knows where to recruit more soldiers, Eider admits he does, but warns it will be a massive headache. Ash does not care about headaches. All that matters is securing a win in the next stage, so he demands answers. Eider simply tells him to follow. Mounting their horses, Lucas asks where they are heading. Eider reveals they are visiting the former lord at the Marquis Cruz estate, explaining that a Margrave basically controls whoever crosses the border. Because their defensive wall shields the land from enemies, monsters, and disasters, they hold immense authority, far beyond just being a simple, powerful local clan. They are commanded by the region's chief defender. Count Cross has ruled this crossroads ever since people first settled here, and even the local fortress is named after the Count's own castle. With the road built by the Cross family and the fortress standing on top of it, this reputable lineage has fiercely guarded their home since day one. Ash wonders why the Marquis gave up his title. Out here, his authority exceeds even the Emperor's. Trust me, you and I are going to want to see what happens next. All right, let's dive into this mystery together. This man willingly abandoned his noble title, begging to be sent to the capital, leaving Ash as the new lord. Ash simply cannot understand why anyone would give up their sacred ancestral lands. Eider admits it is a very long story, suggesting it is best to hear it directly from him. Moments later, they arrive outside a massive estate. This overgrown, weed-covered mansion is the Cross family villa, where the former Marquis retired. Staring at the wilderness, Ash asks if anyone actually lives here, and Eider confirms he personally delivers supplies to the old man. Suddenly, a grumpy old man appears, demanding to know who dares trespass on his property before screaming at them to get lost. Eider steps forward, politely greeting him to jog his memory, and Cross finally recognizes his old helper. Meanwhile, Ash is completely baffled, refusing to believe this disheveled drunk is actually the legendary Marquis. But pay attention here, because this old drunkard was once the ruler of the entire city. When Eider tries introducing his guest, the Marquis snaps that he warned him never to bring anyone, but Eider begs him to listen. Eider introduces him as Prince Ash, the new ruler. Ash clears his throat, offering a formal greeting to Marcus Cross, explaining that he is the Emperor's youngest son and the city's new lord. Despite his usual lazy attitude, Ash forces himself to be polite. It feels weird, but showing respect to an old veteran is necessary, even if he technically outranks him. When Ash explains he came to consult the Marquis, Cross instantly shuts him down. The prince is stunned as the old man screams at him to get lost, making Ash realize this geezer is seriously crossing the line. The Black Empire runs on a strict caste system. Even if this Marquis used to rule, treating a royal prince with such disrespect is unheard of. Furious, Ash demands to know how he dares, threatening to show him who is boss, but the Marquis just reaches for his weapons. In their empire, pulling a blade on royalty is a massive, punishable crime. Cross yells for Ash to scram. This guy is completely unhinged, and Ash knows it is best to avoid a lunatic. The old man warns him to leave now before things get violent. Ash retreats, promising to return when they can speak civilly, which only makes the old man scream louder, telling the prince to stay away forever. Ash stops Lucas from drawing his sword. The old man is Charles Cross, a character who never actually appears directly in the game Protect the Empire. But let's pause here, because Ash remembers him for one massive reason. He is the father of Evangeline Cross, the absolute strongest top-tier character in the entire game. If Ash can win this drunkard over, he gains a legendary ally. Ash asks Eider if the old man can actually boost their military force, and Eider reveals that the Marquis still has his own private army. These loyal veterans would gladly die for their old commander. Getting them on his side would solve his manpower issues instantly. The only problem is, the stubborn old man won't even let Ash step inside. Thankfully, Eider knows a secret way to a drunkard's heart. Ash sighs, wishing he could just live a normal life, but this crazy world simply won't let him. Ash returns to the villa, loudly shouting for the Marquis. Furious, the old man asks if this is his death wish, reminding him he was banned. But then, he spots a wooden cart, sparking his curiosity. Ash pulls back the cover, revealing rows of rare alcohol. Grinning, he offers the old man his favorite treat, playing his Trash Prince card. Before getting reincarnated, Ash was a total playboy prince, known for wild, alcohol-fueled parties. Bringing a massive haul of high-end booze is second nature to him, making this the ultimate bribe to win the Marquis over. Ash dramatically licks a bottle, inviting the Marquis for a drink. Hooked instantly, the old man swings the door open, telling him to bring it all inside. Works every single time. While Lily is busy having literal nightmares about Ash elsewhere, the prince pushes his cart into the massive, gloomy mansion. He follows the old veteran deeper into the shadowy halls. The floor is littered with empty bottles, and the whole place reeks of stale liquor. Setting 2 glasses on the counter, the Marquis admits he hasn't shared a drink in years. Cross grunts that the house is a disaster, but the glasses are always spotless, a true drinker's honor. He inspects the hull, his eyes widening at the rare Imperial Peacemaker whiskey. It is incredibly rare. Peacemaker is the Emperor's middle name, bottled specifically for his coronation, meaning this bottle is worth an absolute fortune. Since he brought such a legendary bottle, the old man has to play nice. Ash raises a toast, but Cross is already chugging his glass down, completely amazed by how smoothly it goes down. Ash asks how he can even savor the flavor at that speed, but the old man logically claims that since he usually drinks cheap trash, he must chug the good stuff to compare. Ash is left speechless. He knows nothing about drinking logic, so he just tries to pivot back to his main proposal. But the old man cuts him off, telling him to stop ruining the vibe. He tells Ash to drink up and leave if he only came to talk business. Sighing, the prince asks if he can at least get some snacks to go with it. Drinking heavy alcohol on an empty stomach is absolute madness. Cross tosses a bag of dried-up, shriveled things onto the counter, explaining they are dried fruits harvested directly from his private orchard. Surprised, Ash asks if he actually runs an orchard. The old man points out the window, showing a small, personal grove he tends just to pass the lonely days. Ash politely takes a bite, but immediately spits it back out in disgust. It is incredibly bitter and smells awful. He cannot comprehend how anyone could ever swallow this garbage. Offended, the Marquis yells that he dried these fruits with love, demanding to know how Ash dares insult them. But when he eats one himself, he instantly spits it out, admitting it tastes like literal garbage. The old man then slides the bag back over, offering it as a gift. Ash asks why he is giving him toxic trash, and the Marquis deadpans that since he cannot eat it, Ash gets it. Ash is completely dumbfounded. The old Marquis is speaking utter nonsense, yet he says it with such bizarre, unshakable confidence. The crossroads lies in the southernmost region of the continent, blessed with rich soil and endless sunlight, making it the perfect territory for farming delicious fruit. Ash asks why the fruit tastes like poison then. The old man explains that crops would normally flourish here, but only if they completely purge the monsters. Those beasts do not just kill farmers and burn fields. When these monsters die, their dark mana seeps deep underground. The results are devastating. The soil rots, the land becomes cursed, and every single crop dies. That is why no orchards or farms can survive near the crossroads. The Marquis gazes into his glass with deep sorrow, looking at the golden liquor imported from prosperous lands where crops actually grow. Ash asks why he still keeps tending a dead orchard. Sighing, the old man admits everyone needs a little useless hope, even if he cannot even drown his sorrows properly anymore. Ash asks if he knows why he came. Cross snaps, telling him to shut up and leave. Slamming his bottle down, Ash challenges him to throw him out if he is man enough. But he's going to deliver his message. The monsters are gathering in insane numbers. During the last wave, 1,000 wandering armors invaded. They barely managed to defend, leaving the walls heavily damaged and their forces depleted. They desperately need reinforcements, and Ash wants the soldiers under the Marquis' command, but Cross claims he has no army left. Ash knows his family still hides elite forces. But let us leave it here for now, as we prepare to see if Ash can convince this broken veteran to fight once again. Let us dive into this tragedy. The warriors lay down their weapons and retire. Ash begs Cross to call them back, but the old veteran says it is useless. The old man claims this land does not deserve protection, leaving Ash completely stunned. Cross warns him not to waste lives on this worthless place, urging him to tell his people to pack up and run. Imagine that a man whose family guarded this border for generations is saying this. He tells the prince to listen carefully, asking what even brought him to this godforsaken place. Everything here is dying, with zero hope for the future. That is his bitter warning as someone who wasted his life guarding it. The sooner Ash packs up and leaves, the better, before this cursed place swallows him whole. Outside, Lucas asks if he managed to convince the old veteran, but Ash admits he failed, though he did get some valuable insights. Besides, he did not expect to fix everything in one day anyway. Lucas asks if he will keep trying, and Ash nods it is worth the effort. But then, he asks about Marcus Cross. Something heavy clearly broke the old man, so he asks if Lucas knows the story. The knight shakes his head. Ash realizes that Eider wanted him to hear this directly from the source, that clever steward. Ash decides they must do what they can while trying to win the old man over. Right now, that means rebuilding the wall and getting ready for a brutal fight. No matter how bad his hand is, the monsters are not going to stop. He just has to wipe them out as fast as possible. With that, he orders everyone back to the crossroads. Suddenly, the system alerts them to Stage 2. The enemy roster reveals 3 unknown high-level monsters and a tide of level 5 giant rats that stops at 3,251. By the next morning, a worker reports that they have cleared out the massive sword and are ready to start rebuilding the wall immediately. Pay attention here, because this is where the heartbreak begins. Cross laughs bitterly, admitting his wife was the only woman he ever loved, before she died 3 years ago. Ash recoils in horror as the veteran explains she was torn apart by monsters in the orchard, forcing a closed casket funeral. It is a grim curse passed down from lord to lord. Call it a curse, but you eventually have to choose between saving this city or saving the people you love. There has never been a single exception. Not his father nor his grandfather could escape this cruel fate. Shaking, Cross admits his turn eventually came. For 10 peaceful years, the beasts on the border had remained dormant. While the city was safe, the economy was in ruins. To survive the financial crisis, they needed a miracle, and his wife suggested farming the fertile lands south of the dungeon. Ash asks if that was outside the safe zone. Since monsters always raided the north, the empty south seemed perfect, with rarely any beast sightings. With clean, fertile soil, they decided it was worth the risk and expanded. Rumors of their success spread, drawing in desperate refugees from all over since the local defenses easily kept the few roaming monsters away. For a while, life was beautiful. They planted the orchard at the southern edge, where his wife personally replanted the trees and nurtured the soil. He still remembers her feeding him the very first grapes they harvested. They were small and imperfect, but to him, they tasted sweeter than anything else in the world. In that brief moment, he actually felt hopeful. Hope that they could grow old farming sweet fruit instead of slaughtering monsters. He just wanted that simple life to last forever. But you and I both know peace never lasts. 2 years in, word came that 100 giant beasts were marching on the city, forcing him to rush back to the walls. His wife waved goodbye at the orchard, telling him to stay safe. Cross falls silent. It was only when he reached the fortress that he realized the enemy horde had split into two. Over a dozen beasts broke off to raid the farming settlement. But with the main horde already besieging the city, he was forced to make a devastating choice. Save his wife at the farm or protect tens of thousands of innocent citizens at the crossroads. Looking at Ash, Cross asks what he decided. Ash softly answers that he chose the city. Yes. Just like his ancestors, he followed duty over love. He defended the outer wall and fought the monsters with everything he had. After hours of bloody fighting, they drove the beasts back, and he rode like mad to the southern farms. But it was too late. The fields were in ruins, littered with hundreds of lifeless bodies. His wife and their beautiful orchard shared that same horrific fate. Marcus Cross did his duty, but lost his entire world because of it. Now, the old man wonders where he went wrong. Was it the weak defenses or his foolish dream of farming the South? It was all his mistake. But the guilt that eats him alive is knowing he chose the city over his own wife. His daughter called him a monster, unable to comprehend why he abandoned her mother. She left shortly after. That is his reward for saving the city. His wife is dead. His daughter is gone. And he's left rotting alone. It is a cautionary tale for Ash. Cross asks if he knows the true name of this place. Ash whispers, the City of Graves. The veteran nods. This cursed city is built on bones, and it will force Ash into the exact same corner. He will eventually have to sacrifice his most cherished treasure. It sounds less like a curse and more like a terrifying prophecy of what is to come. Cross declares his family has paid the blood tax for generations, but it ends with him. Suddenly, Ash connects the dots. Cross abandoned his post specifically to shield his daughter from inheriting this terrible burden. He wants Evangeline to leave this hellhole and find true happiness. But while the father is desperate to keep her off the battlefield, Ash is planning to recruit her to his squad. Refilling his glass, Cross notes that Ash only came here begging for help to save the fortress. He sets the bottle down, muttering that he defended this place for too long and lost everything. That is why he is finished. Staring into his liquor, there is zero pride left in his eyes. He just wants to die in peace, right there in that ruined orchard. Not fighting on some bloody wall. His eyes are filled only with the haunting regret of failing his wife. He asks if that is a clear enough reason to leave him alone. He only shared this because he appreciated the company, but now it is time for Ash to leave. He offers one last warning: when the moment comes, choose wisely or live in regret. 5 days into rebuilding the wall, with only 2 days left before the next wave hits, Ash rewards his exhausted crew with a massive feast, telling them to rest up. The workers cheer for their generous leader, who chuckles and tells them to eat up before getting back to work. Ash asks the builder for an update, who promises a swift finish. The wall will be ready in 2 days, meaning the worst is over. Grinning at the alchemist, Ash suggests installing a secret weapon, sparking instant excitement. He pulls out the magical summoning scroll from his previous mission. Once the alchemist deciphers it, the system asks if he wants to deploy the automatic defense tower. Ash confirms and activates the scroll, instantly summoning a massive defense tower. To finish the setup, he uses a rare mana core obtained from his last reward chest. Ash selects the city gates as the build site. Suddenly, the rubble shifts, and trust me, you and I are not ready for what rises next. Alright, you and I are starting with something epic, as stone pieces merge into a massive magic cannon. Ash calls it beautiful, while the alchemist leader claims it looks like ancient architecture lost for hundreds of years. Ash praises them for making their defense lines stronger than ever before, then orders everyone back to work. The crew is absolutely thrilled. Hoping they keep that high energy, our main character heads over to the blacksmith. When Ash asks how progress is coming along, Lucas excitedly replies that things could not be better. The custom armor is finally finished, forged using that broken mana hack from the Spirit Knight. It boosts the wearer's durability by 33% and grants a unique spiritual form attribute. This skill makes you completely untouchable for 5 seconds, while still letting you attack your enemies. Lucas tearfully thanks Ash, but our main character insists he custom ordered it just for him. Apparently, Lucas even teared up during his custom fitting. Ash notes he should definitely spoil his loyal knight more. He thanks the blacksmith, who quickly waves off any gratitude. He is just thrilled to work with premium materials again. If our hero keeps bringing him work, he will give it his all. Plus, the forge is officially level 3 now. Since day 1, the gear from this forge has been absolutely vital to his survival strategy. He will definitely be coming back often. Ash then calls Lucas over, telling him they need to head to the city's west side for a major event. At the fortress city's western field, a somber 3-gun salute echoes through the sky. A funeral is underway for the brave soldiers lost in the previous battle, their coffins laid to rest. Casualties were surprisingly low this time, leaving Ash to wonder if that is actually a good sign. As the choir sings, our hero stands before the graves until the quick ceremony wraps up. Only Ash and Lucas remain as night falls over the cemetery. Suddenly, a voice complains that Ash is wasting prime city space on funerals, adding he heard about the compensation being sent to the families. Now pay attention here, because Marcus Cross warns him he is spending like a king on a brutal front line. Dying is just a daily occurrence, and soon, Ash won't be able to afford this generosity. Ash bows his head, asking if the old-timer came all this way just to lecture him, or if he is simply out of booze. Cross snorts, replying he can always find more alcohol. While he usually hits the city for refills, he is actually here for a different reason. He asked his retired veteran buddies how they felt about defending this place. Ash asks what they said. Cross reveals they agreed to stand up and defend the city one last time. Our main character lights up, calling it the absolute best news he has heard all week. Cross admits he is not sure how helpful these old geezers will be, but they are gearing up and he is handing their command over. He asks Ash to go easy on them since they are aging. Ash is too thrilled to care. The old man says to thank the soldiers, not him. Given how stubborn Cross usually is, Ash was completely at a loss on how to convince him, making this sudden help a massive, wonderful surprise. Ash insists it is all thanks to him. Cross simply sighs, stating he has done all he can. He asks the young lord to take good care of the city, wishing him the best of luck. A grateful Ash promises to give it his all, saying he will visit the old-timer whenever he needs his guidance. Cross scoffingly asks what wisdom he is talking about, telling him to just bring good alcohol next time. As Marcus walks away, Ash shouts that he is worried about his health and will send medical supplies. Calling him a little brat, the old man takes a deep breath and bids a silent farewell. Probably heading back to his peaceful orchard. Ash wants to call him back. After all, even if he is old and tired, Cross defended this fortress his entire life. He would be a massive asset in the upcoming fight, but he has already sacrificed way too much for this city. So, Ash lets him go, watching his figure shrink into the horizon. And trust me, this part hits different. He resolves to visit more often and listen to his warnings next time. But he had no idea there would be no next time. 2 days later, the next stage begins. With the walls barely finished, the builder admits some sections were rushed, but guarantees the structural defense will hold up. Ash thanks him. They are fully prepared, stocked with supplies, and boasting heavily expanded forces. They now have over 300 Twilight soldiers assembled. Though their original strength was 1,000, Ash is grateful for what they have. Nearby, the magic cannon suddenly hums to life. Ash hugs the weapon, calling it his reliable partner. The death zone is set, and their defenses are completely flawless. Let the monsters come. Suddenly, a mysterious masked figure looks up and steps forward. The stranger stands right outside the gates. Meanwhile, a scout rushes back on horseback to deliver the grim news from the vanguard. The monsters are here. Ash spots thousands of giant rats flooding the horizon. Stage 2 commences in 9 seconds. Our main character screams for everyone to hold the line and stay alert. His troops shout back in agreement. They are ready for war. In all his time playing this game, he has never had such a perfect setup. Ash confidently waits for the onslaught. But down below, that masked figure stands silently, staring straight up at him. Ash freezes, wondering who on earth that could be. Sensing his panic, Lucas asks what is wrong. Ash points toward the figure, but rising smoke suddenly obscures the view, and Lucas sees absolutely nothing. Ash calls out to Damien, asking if he spots anyone in the distance, but he gets the same answer. He tries to convince himself he is just seeing things. Yet, if that figure was actually real, who could it be? His heart pounds as he tries to process who that mysterious stranger was. But with a massive rat army finally arriving, he has to focus. No matter who they are or how many show up, there is only one option left. He has to wipe them out. He commands the artillery units to prep their weapons. With a loud roar, Ash orders them to fire, sending heavy shells raining down on the approaching swarm. The explosive rounds tear through the front lines, obliterating dozens of monsters. Ash grins as nearly 100 rats vanish instantly. These pests have absolutely nothing on their side besides sheer numbers. It is just an endless, mindless swarm. That means they can completely decimate them using nothing but ranged physical attacks. 30 minutes into the clash, everything is going flawlessly. But just as their kill count crosses 900, several rats suddenly begin scaling the wooden barricades. Ash watches in absolute horror. They crowd the wooden wall until the entire structure collapses under their massive weight. Ash is stunned, wondering who could possibly be smart enough to command the beasts to sacrifice themselves like this. Losing the death zone this early was definitely not part of his plan. Ash quickly screams for the artillery to adjust their targets and orders the ballista squads to stand ready. Fortunately, there is still some distance to the main wall, heavily packed with defensive obstacles. As cannons and crossbows fire, Ash suddenly realizes he overlooked a fatal detail. A panicked soldier shouts that the targets are moving way too fast to aim. Ash curses. Four-legged beasts have incredible speed, a simple fact he definitely should have accounted for earlier. By now, a massive wave of rats is already swarming the wall. Suddenly, the magic cannon rotates and unleashes a rapid volley of explosive rounds, catching Ash off guard. The beasts screech as they are vaporized in a massive, epic explosion. Nothing beats an automated defense tower, but even with its insane firepower, it simply cannot cover the entire battlefield. To make matters worse, the cannon is out of ammo and needs time to reload. Meanwhile, a massive horde of rats breaches their front lines way faster than Ash ever anticipated. While sword fragments manage to tear through some of them, it is only a matter of time before they reach the main wall. Brutal close combat is now completely unavoidable, and holding them back will cost them dearly. Chain explosions erupt down below. And trust me, you and I must see what happens next. Alright, you and I are jumping right into this crazy battle, where Ash spots some mind-blowing snipers. Turns out, veterans from the Twilight Army are mentoring rookie recruits on the fly. This star-studded reinforcement is working out way better than he hoped. Another veteran screams at the troops to lock in and keep their focus. This fight is just getting started, and there is a long way to go. A Twilight Knight yells at his pupil to shoot without fear. With these veteran monsters coaching his rookies, Ash can finally breathe. One of the old-timers even barks at Ash to relax because the seniors have this covered, giving him some real relief. He realizes he can actually count on these old-timers. Thanks to the legendary Twilight Army, the defense line is holding strong, absolutely tearing through the incoming swarm of rats. Meanwhile, on the front line, Lucas is screaming at the left flank. He warns them their defensive fire is way too weak, demanding they stop hesitating and start shooting to kill. Ash appointed Lucas as his frontline commander. While the young lord draws up the big strategy, Lucas makes sure the details are executed perfectly. Since Ash knows nothing about fantasy mercenary tactics, his plans can sound completely absurd, but Lucas always deciphers them and adapts beautifully on the fly. Talk about a top-tier commander. Meanwhile, Damien grips his crossbow tight. He fires slowly but with deadly precision, picking off any rat getting too close to the wall. Damien's true talent is sniper-like accuracy from extreme range. Sure, single-target shots feel minor against a massive horde, but his high kill count contribution is undeniable. Ash feels a swell of pride watching him. Meanwhile, over at the Artifact Defense Tower, Lily is running the show. She barks out that Grabby Artifact number 1 will overheat in 3 minutes, ordering the second unit to be prepped. Her intense, loud, and incredibly serious attitude instantly tells Ash she's just trying to show off how hard she's working. He plays along and ignores her, knowing he needs her motivated for the front line. But then we have our final squad member, Jupiter. She's literally lying back with a drink, casually praising everyone's hard work. Ash just stares. He told her to stay on standby and take it easy, but apparently, she only heard the take it easy part. Jupiter whines about her back aching from channeling too much mana. Ash can't even yell at her because rare mages are impossible to replace, so he just warns her she'd better deliver later. She casually agrees, leaving Ash silently cursing this lazy grandma. But hey, thanks to everyone else's hard work, they are successfully keeping the rat horde at bay. Boom! The magic cannon blasts another cluster of rats with insane power. Ash literally hugs the weapon, praising its performance. At this rate, clearing this stage should be a total breeze. He starts wondering if he can pull off a flawless victory with 0 casualties this time. But then, a familiar figure catches his eye. It's that masked guy. Ash quickly pulls up his system map. Pay close attention here, because a hostile NPC has just infiltrated the Stage 2 area. In this game, insane random variables like this pop up all the time, completely turning the tide of battle when you least expect it. From subterranean lake monsters to rival nations seeking to destroy the Empire, there is always someone or something crashing the party to sabotage their progress. But seriously, they are only on stage 2. This is way too early for a rogue threat. Ash wants to scream at the game developers, but they are completely on their own. Ash yells to Damien, asking if he sees the masked intruder standing below. Damien confirms, calling him a wandering minstrel. When Ash commands him to shoot, the boy hesitates, arguing that the target is a human, not a monster. He's definitely a Lake Kingdom minstrel, judging by those clothes. Ash remembers his profile. He screams at Damien that they have to kill him before he can play that flute. Damien's hands shake, holding his weapon. Ash snaps, roaring that Damien is his sniper and needs to pull the trigger right now or everyone dies. Then, a haunting melody echoes. Ash freezes, spinning around to see the minstrel playing. Suddenly, the rats halt and completely shift direction. The entire defense force is left baffled, wondering what is going on. As the eerie flute music intensifies, the rats charge back toward the wall with absolute madness. The horde is rushing in. Ash demands to know where they are heading, and Lucas screams that they are aiming right for the freshly repaired center gate. Ash commands the artillery and ballistas to lock onto the charge and unleash absolute hell. They open fire, but even Ash can barely keep track of the chaotic defense lines. The shift in the horde's movement was incredibly abrupt. Now, they are sprinting faster and hitting harder. Cannons blast, but Ash watches in horror as the rats slam directly into the wall. The rest of the swarm follows, literally smashing their skulls against the stone. The soldiers shout in confusion. Why are these beasts throwing themselves into the wall they just fixed this morning? Ash realizes these beasts are completely out of their minds. The repair job was finished barely hours ago. The team did their best, but that section of the wall is still highly unstable. Because they rush to plug the hole, microscopic fractures remain, and the rats are targeting those exact weak points, throwing their bodies against the stone with suicidal force. They are literally tearing through metal claws and chewing through solid brick. The rats are burrowing inside, and a massive crack is widening by the second. It is a terrifying tactic only rats could pull off. Ash is left speechless, and let's pause for a second, because did you see that? It looked like the masked minstrel actually smiled. This Lake Kingdom NPC is a monster summoner who controls hordes with just a flute. In the game, players call him the Flute Piper. He needs to die right now. Ash screams at Damien to pull the trigger, but the boy is shaking too hard to shoot. The minstrel just stands there, calmly tipping his hat. Ash screams Damien's name, but in a flash, the man vanishes. Silence falls between them as Damien tearfully apologizes, admitting that even against an enemy, he cannot bring himself to shoot a human. Ash realizes he overlooked this. Damien is a pure healer, but in this war, they will face plenty of human foes. Damien has to overcome this mental block eventually. If not, his potential combat utility is cut in half. Ash places a reassuring hand on his shoulder, telling him they will discuss this later. Right now, they have a crisis to manage. He orders the artillery and archers to focus fire on the center wall. As projectiles fly, Ash roars that it is time for Jupiter to get to work. The old lady grins, saying she was waiting for those exact words. Ash commands her to fry them, and Jupiter unleashes devastating lightning. Ash then bellows at Lily to prep their heavy flamethrower artifacts. Lily complies, booting up the flamethrowers. The auxiliary mages take control of the defense artifacts lining the wall, and she barks the order to unleash the fire. Now a lethal cocktail of cannon fire, arrows, lightning, and roaring flames rains down on the rats. Ash gets pumped. The mindless horde bunched up in one spot, making them perfect targets. Ash decides to turn the entire battlefield into a literal graveyard. Laughing like a total psychopath, he mocks the beasts for daring to challenge an imperial fortress. Suddenly, a sharp system alert interrupts him. His jaw drops in pure shock. The system reveals the boss names 3 level 3 champion ratmen. Since their tags are visible, it means they have joined the fray, spearheading a massive second wave of monsters. These behemoths are charging to tear down the fortress. Ash screams at his men to halt their advance, but one champion breaks away, sprinting toward the gates at breakneck speed. Ash screams at his stunned soldiers to stop staring and bring that thing down. A barrage of arrows and cannon fire resumes, but the giant beast keeps charging right through it. This monster is easily double the size of the ratman from the dungeon, and they cannot let it impact the structure. The magic cannon fires a point-blank blast. The leading champion takes a direct hit and collapses lifeless. Ash watches in dread, shouting for everyone to brace. They must kill the remaining bosses first. Trust me, you and I need to watch how this unfolds next. All right, you and I are jumping right into the chaos as Ash orders everyone to open fire and crank up Jupiter's mana amplifier. Packed with raw electricity, she tells those rats to go to hell before unleashing absolute lightning storms. Her blast is just as devastating as Ash predicted, melting hordes of rats instantly. But the giant boss keeps charging forward, leaving Jupiter absolutely stunned that her strike wasn't enough. That widespread damage simply couldn't drop the elite rat champions. Desperate, Ash yells at Lily to activate her flamethrower. She screams back that the artifact is still on cooldown, but Ash tells her to ignite her own magic instead. Startled, Lily channels her mana while grumbling that she knew he'd make her do this, then unleashes a blazing firestorm onto the monsters. The rats are completely caught off guard by the heat. One boss is charred to a crisp, but the second survivor keeps charging ahead. Ash screams to halt him, and Lucas instantly hurls his sword at the beast. It punctures the ratman's shoulder, making it shriek in agony. Lucas shouts that they need one more hit. Ash immediately calls on Damien to finish it. Activating his Farsight ability, the young archer fires his crossbow, planting a bolt directly through the monster's eye. Now watch this, because before Ash can even celebrate, the furious boss keeps sprinting. Our main character can't believe this beast is still moving as it rams into the city wall with insane force, shattering it completely. Thick smoke fills the air as the beast breaches the city. Something is deeply wrong. Lord Cross was the one who ruled this place, dedicating his entire life to keeping these monsters out. The veteran realizes it instantly. This beastly onslaught is completely different from any invasion Cross ever faced back when he ruled as Lord. Not only are these creatures on a whole different level, but they seem fused together like a single entity. Watching from afar, Cross wonders if Prince Ash has seriously survived 3 nightmare battles just like this already. He finally understands why the prince begged for his aid. For a former playboy who just messed around in the capital, Ash has done incredibly well, but this situation is still turning deadlier by the second. Cross debates stepping in, but the memory of losing his wife holds him back. He is retired, with absolutely no reason to fight. Turning his horse around, the former Marquis rides away from the battle. He just wants to die peacefully in his orchard. Suddenly, a massive blast startles the old man. It is the rat champion shattering the wall. Cross stands frozen in shock, but refuses to draw his sword. The horrors of war continue to haunt his mind. Believing he must protect his wife's memory back at the orchard, the old man retreats while Ash desperately screams for the city's evacuation. An alarm bell begins to toll. A massive second wave of rats is swarming in. Aside from a skeleton crew of archers and artillery, every single melee fighter must immediately rush down to defend the breach. Ash puts Lucas in command of the ground force, ordering the wall defenders to maintain a relentless barrage. They must create a wall of fire directly in front of the breach. He commands Jupiter to burn all her mana to vaporize as many beasts as possible, and the old mage nods. Ash asks Lily if any other relic is active, but she says only the speed booster remains. When asked about the flamethrower, Lily warns it needs 10 minutes to recharge. Ash orders her to cast the speed buff on the frontline knights immediately, and unleash the flames the second they are ready. Ash approaches Damien but stops in his tracks. The young boy looks ready to burst into tears, clearly blaming himself. Ash suddenly flicks his forehead and warmly tells him he did awesome. Damien is stunned. Ash tells him to stop beating himself up over a tiny slip-up. He is a master sniper who never misses, a truly invaluable asset to the team. Ash grabs Damien's shoulders, telling him he is incredibly grateful to have him, so he must stay strong. Patting his back, Ash assigns him to protect their absolute last line of defense. Every beast slipping past the front line is his target. Damien nods with burning resolve. And honestly, you and I are right there with Ash, praying that everyone can hold their ground. The massive rat swarm finally crashes against the shattered wall. Ash screams at them to brace for battle, while the knights below sweat in pure anxiety. They set up a tight shield wall as the beasts scramble over the corpse of their fallen giant. The first rat screeches as it breaches the line, only to be instantly cut down. Its head goes flying from a massive swing of Lucas's brand new sword, which holds special power against these rodents. Lucas bellows to his men that the enemy is here, urging them to stay calm and kill them one by one. The knights roar, raising their iron shields to block the oncoming tide. Watching from above, Ash grows anxious as more rats pour in, with one creature starting to literally gnaw through the stone. They are trying to widen the breach. Ash panics, realizing these beasts act more like giant moles than rats. Lily screams that her flamethrower is finally ready to fire, but a sudden shriek cuts her off. Ash spins around in shock. Rats have somehow scaled the wall and ambushed the alchemists. As a bleeding survivor crawls toward Lily begging for aid, Ash dashes over and punches a beast straight in the face. His gacha luck strikes again as the visual slot machine spins. The rat gets launched into orbit by his overpowered fist. Looking over the edge, he sees the rodents scaling the sheer stone with their claws. Tears well up in Lily's eyes, quickly turning into absolute fury. She unleashes her own raw fire magic, daring the monsters to face her, since the injured alchemists can no longer activate the main artifact. A knight gets his hands severed in the brutal clash. He screams in agony, but there is no room to retreat. The front line is taking devastating injuries to protect the town. The archers try to suppress the breach, but the casualties on both sides are mounting. Ash punches another invading rodent, realizing they are on the brink of absolute ruin. Suddenly, a Twilight Knight spots something unbelievable in the distance. It is the Cross of Mara. Ash stares in shock as a blinding light approaches, with a legendary warrior charging toward them at full speed. He bellows at the horde to face him, his massive sword reflecting brilliant light to draw their aggro. It is a wide-range taunt, leaving the rats completely disoriented and panicked by the flashes. Ash panics, screaming that the old man is going to get himself killed out there. But Cross remains dead serious, moving with absolute purpose. After all, Charles Cross spent his entire life slaughtering beasts. He was born on this battlefield, defending the border as a marquis and later as the Lord. Day in and day out, his life was simple. Slay the beasts before they could slay you. His entire existence was simple and clear-cut, until she arrived in the city. The woman Cross would fall deeply in love with. He still remembers asking what she planned to sell. She smiled, handing him 2 flowers and explaining she wanted to open a shop. The stoic Marquess was completely speechless. He flatly told her that this city was a brutal war zone. A fortress only needed weapons, spears, and bombs, not fragile petals. But she cheerfully replied that was exactly why soldiers needed them. Their total uselessness and brief lives are what made them beautiful. Unable to understand her logic, Cross grew highly suspicious. Suspecting she might be an enemy spy, he began visiting her little flower shop every single day. The girl always welcomed the Lord's visits with a bright smile. He would stare at strange blooms he had never seen, continuing his daily investigations just to prove she was a spy. Soon, Marquis Cross memorized the scent and name of every flower in her shop. He still didn't understand their beauty, yet a year later, he ended up asking her to marry him. Charging his loyal warhorse directly onto the battlefield, Cross screams for the beasts to look at him. The entire screeching swarm turns in his direction, leaving Ash wondering what on earth this old man is doing. The prince screams from the wall, warning him he is riding straight to his grave. But the veteran knight remains unfazed, letting out a warrior's battle cry as the tide of rats swallows him. Many years ago, a battered Cross returned home after a brutal battle. And trust me, as his wife held their crying baby, you and I can feel the weight of what he's fighting to protect. You and I are jumping right into a moment that will break your heart. Covered in blood, Cross simply holds his daughter, Evangeline. She asks if she is as beautiful as her name, but he stays silent. He has no words. As the baby grabs his finger, he wonders how such a tiny, fragile thing could trigger such overwhelming emotion. In that quiet second, it feels as if he finally understands the meaning of everything. Just moments ago, he was slaying monsters, yet now he feels completely lost. Back at the wall, Ash orders the soldiers to prepare for battle, banning artillery so they do not hit the marquee. He commands them to use crossbows and arrows to pick off the rats from afar. Then, Ash calls for Lucas to gather every able-bodied soldier and charge outside the gates to rescue Cross. Lucas looks deadly serious, declaring this is not a rescue mission. They need to strike the rats from behind and end this fight instantly. Lucas roars that they will crush those beasts and bring the marquee back alive. As the gates grind open, he raises his blade and orders the charge. Every single knight rushes headfirst into the chaos. Ash can only pray they make it in time. Out on the field, gripping his sword tightly, Cross fights like a demon, desperate to hold back the endless tide of rats. Not even the Marquis himself knows why he is doing this. Why did he choose this city again? After promising to stay by his wife's side, he is still bleeding for these walls. Suddenly, a heavy blow strikes him. Ash cannot comprehend it either. As pieces of the old man's armor shatter and fly off, we realize Cross spent his entire life searching for answers he never found. But deep down, he knows one absolute truth. Leaning heavily on his sword, Charles Cross drags himself up and charges on foot. Toward the monsters, toward his memories, toward his daughter. He must protect the fragile from these beasts. Watch closely here, killing monsters was what he did best. He screams that his daughter lives behind that wall, protecting her world. Not a single beast will cross that line. The swarm claws at him, leaving him brutally wounded. He knows that no matter how much power he gains, those peaceful days are gone forever. But since war is all he knows, he swings his sword anyway. His mind holds a single, desperate thought, take down just one more. With that, he obliterates a dozen more beasts. The Marquis grits his teeth, determined to drag them to hell with him. Blood drips from his blade. Suddenly, a terrifying silence falls. The monsters stop. Is he already gone? A voice calls out through the haze. It is Lucas, announcing that the monsters are defeated and the battle is won. Cross blinks in shock, seeing a massive army before him. It is over. The old man collapses, letting his heavy sword slip from his fingers. Lucas calls out to Ash, his voice heavy with defeat. Ash approaches in stunned silence, freezing at what he sees. Damien desperately channels his healing magic over the fallen Marquis. Sensing Ash, the boy bows his head in sorrow. Heartbroken, Ash reaches for the high-grade potion he won from the last reward chest. He hopes it works, but a weak voice stops him. Cross whispers that the potion cannot save him, it will only bring useless pain. Instead, the old man asks Ash to help him stand. His vision has faded to black. Ash supports him as Cross weakly asks if the battle is won. The boy nods, telling him they succeeded because of him. Cross asks if the wall held. Ash assures him that not a single monster survived, and the citizens are completely safe. The Marquis smiles, telling the crying soldiers around him to wipe away their tears. This is war, after all. People die in battle all the time. They should celebrate this victory and be glad they survived. As his eyes grow heavy, you and I realize this city was built on the graves of the fallen. Yet, life still goes on directly above the dead. Cross warns Ash that if he drowns in grief, the city will fall. Funerals are important, but the living matter more. Ash silently agrees hope is the only thing keeping them going. If someone must perish, let it be those who have already lost all hope. The Marquis begs Ash for one final promise, and the boy vows to do his best. He asks Ash to tell his daughter, if she ever returns, that he is deeply sorry and wants her to live in absolute freedom. Ash promises, and the old man whispers a final apology to his late wife. He failed to protect her, their home, or their daughter. Ash squeezes his hand, insisting that it is not true he saved this world, and not just once. He gave his entire life to this fight, saving everyone inside the fortress walls. The world is in his debt, but the old warrior remains silent, fading fast. He can no longer hear Ash. Suddenly, the boy remembers the strange fruit the Marquis gave him. He never knew why he kept those bitter grapes, but now he understands. He places a single fruit in the old man's mouth. Cross exhales. To him, the bitter grape tastes incredibly sweet. His breathing stops as a distant bell begins to toll. Ash is left completely bewildered. This man lost everything he ever loved trying to save this city, growing to hate it enough to abandon his own legacy. So why did he return at the absolute end, fighting to his death? What was it about this battlefield that consumed him? Ash whispers that being the lord of this city is a crushing burden. As the tolling bell echoes, soldiers gather to watch. The system announces that Stage 2 is cleared. While Lucas is promoted, Cross is gone forever. As night falls over the city, Ash heads inside. Adder sighs in relief, asking if the boy is hurt. Ash is drenched in blood. Before he can speak, Adder interrupts, praising him for clearing another stage. Furious, Ash grabs his servant by the collar and slams him against the wall. Ash demands answers, but the servant plays dumb. The boy screams at him to drop the innocent act and stop playing the role of a clueless director. The situation is highly suspicious. He demands to know why these levels are so brutal. He ignored how hard the tutorials were, but this is insane. He accepted the wandering armors in Stage 1, but a hostile character commanding beasts in Stage 2. That does not even happen in the hardest mode of the game. Furious, Ash demands to know what Adder is planning, why the game is this difficult, and what awaits them in Stage 3. Why offer help if it was all a lie to hide the truth? Adder stays quiet, then calmly says Ash might not believe him, but he is doing his best to help. Ash fires back, demanding how keeping him in the dark could possibly be helping. The servant points to the necklace Ash received after clearing Stage 0. Once Stage 3 is finished, its power will unlock and he will finally have all of his answers. All he has to do is survive one more stage to discover the truth behind this nightmare. Adder whispers that he will be praying for Ash to make it through. Adder hopes Ash keeps fighting even after discovering the truth, warning that escape will soon be impossible. Stunned, Ash asks what exactly he will not be able to flee from. Adder stays silent. Ash cannot escape this world. Meanwhile, a mysterious girl travels through the dark forest. It has been 3 days since Stage 2 ended. Flags flutter across the silent city as workers rebuild the broken walls. Even after pushing Adder to his absolute limits, Ash knows they must prepare for the next brutal battle. Lucas heads home in a carriage after days of endless work. 12 days and 9 hours remain until Stage 3. They have 15 days total between stages, and repairs are going smoothly. Trust me, you and I are going to want to see what happens next. Let's dive in as our main character arrives home in his carriage and spots a mysterious silhouette. A girl is staring right at him. Before Ash can even warn anyone, she lunges and shatters the carriage window with a single strike. Our young prince is completely caught off guard by this sudden, violent ambush. Even the girl seems shocked, admitting she actually missed the wheels. Lucas quickly checks if Ash is okay. Once the prince nods, a furious Lucas demands to know who she is and if she realizes who she just attacked. Lucas draws his blade, ready to arrest and punish her on the spot. Ash tries to de-escalate, pointing out she is just a kid. But Lucas warns him never to underestimate someone just because of their youth. She has the posture of a trained warrior, wearing the distinct uniform of the Imperial Academy. Her badge confirms it. Lucas demands to know why an academy student is out here, ordering her to state her name. Furious, the girl snaps that she is trying to explain, calling them geezers. Both Ash and Lucas instantly yell back that they are not geezers. She points to the mansion, claiming it is her home, only to return and find strange soldiers occupying the place. She was not sure if they were ancestral bandits or infiltrating enemy forces trying to seize her family territory. Unsure of what to do, she decided to stop the arriving carriage. Ash angrily shouts that she could have just asked them to halt instead of completely wrecking his ride. She calmly explains that the academy taught her to show force when facing suspects. Still pointing her sword at them, she offers a casual apology, claiming she did not mean to break the carriage. She demands to know who these geezers are and why they are occupying her house. With a deadly serious look, she warns that their lives depend entirely on their response. So, they had better choose their words carefully. Lucas stabs his sword into the ground, completely confused. He states this is the Crossroads Lord's mansion, which means it belongs to Ash. The girl scoffs, revealing that her own father is the Lord. Suddenly, the pieces click together. Ash takes a deep breath, recalling what the Marquis said about his daughter. He realizes she must be Evangeline Cross, which surprises her. Ash explains he heard all about her from her late father, adding that those matching green eyes made the family connection instantly obvious the moment he saw her. Ash recalls that the Evangeline from the game was a fully grown woman. While this girl is not a toddler, she is still remarkably young. Out loud, the boy blurts out that she is much shorter than expected. He wonders why she changed when everyone else looks like their game designs. Lucas whispers that commenting on a lady's height to her face is incredibly rude. Ash quickly apologizes, claiming he did not mean to offend her. But an angry Evangeline asks how he dares mock her biggest insecurity, wondering if he has some extra lives to spare. Ash nervously replies that he only has one life. Evangeline warns him to watch his mouth, reaching behind her back to grab a massive, bird-shaped shield. Evangeline announces she has changed her mind. What was a simple probe is now a real fight. Charging forward with incredible speed, her fierce expression perfectly mirrors her late father. She is his spitting image. Lucas parries her strike, begging her to lower her weapon since she is actively attacking the third Imperial Prince, Ash. Evangeline yells that they stole her home and are now impersonating royalty. Deflecting Lucas's blade, she demands to know why a useless playboy prince would ever come to this remote, monster-infested border. As Evangeline charges again, Lucas prepares. With one fluid motion, he blows her back. She grunts that he is not bad for an old-timer, prompting Lucas to reveal he is an Academy alumnus too. Introducing himself as Lucas McGregor, he proudly shares he graduated with honors from class 369 and notes that Prince Ash was also a student there. Our young prince starts sweating since he had no idea he even went to school. Lucas continues, claiming Ash is an absolute legend from that very same class. Ash gets excited, eagerly asking what legendary feat he accomplished. Lucas deadpans that Ash confidently skipped classes to relax, earning him the honor of graduating dead last in their class. Ash internally grumbles that playing hooky is the only real way to relax anyway. Evangeline snaps, asking if they seriously expect her to believe this alumnus story, claiming she would definitely recognize her actual seniors. Neither of them has a comeback for that. Tightening her grip on her sword, she proudly introduces herself as Evangeline Cross, honor student of class 375, mockingly greeting her seniors. Now pay attention here, because she charges straight back into the fray. Lucas keeps parrying, but Ash can tell they are both top-tier warriors operating on an entirely different level. They are easily two of the most brilliant fighters in this region, but someone is bound to get hurt. Ash finally shouts for them to cut it out. He tries to explain there is just a misunderstanding, but they keep clashing. Ash sighs, asking if they are completely deaf, but his words just fall on deaf ears. These two warriors are totally lost in their duel. It looks like he has to be the party pooper. Even if his combat skills are terrible, he just needs to separate them gently. Slipping behind Evangeline, Ash triggers his special punch. The random system slot machine spins, unexpectedly landing 3 matching numbers. Ash internally panics, wondering why his luck had to peak right now. I know what you were thinking, and yes, it is devastating. An overpowered punch blasts Evangeline away, shattering the mansion's thick outer wall. Even Lucas is stunned, asking how he pulled that off. But Ash is panicking. Evangeline is face down, totally knocked out. Lucas looks horrified, asking how the prince could be so incredibly cruel to a young kid. Ash stammers that he did not mean to. As the dust settles, he asks if she is alive, triggering a childhood memory where monsters constantly threaten her border town. Her mother would always stay by her side, claiming she was there to keep the little girl from being afraid of the beasts. But even then, young Evangeline knew her mother was the terrified one. She asked her mom why she was scared when her strong father would always protect them. Her mother smiled and agreed, but soon, Evangeline realized her mother was not actually afraid of the monsters. She feared losing her husband to the battlefield, and her daughter inheriting that same bloody fate. Suddenly, Evangeline wakes up with a gasp. She is lying in a comfortable bed, smelling a very familiar home scent. Realizing she is in her old room, a knock on the door sends her diving under the covers to hide. Ash enters, pulling up a chair. Half asleep, she whispers that it has been 3 years, asking how he is doing, leaving him totally confused. She mumbles about always asking silly questions, asking if he enjoyed his latest monster hunt. Sadly, she realizes she is dreaming of a proper conversation she never got to have. Ash gently apologizes, telling her he is not her father. Startled, she bolts upright, searching for her weapon, only to find nothing. Instead, she notices her injured hand is neatly bandaged. Ash remarks she is still out of it, wondering if his punch was too brutal. Memory of the fight rushes back, and she screams that he is that geezer from yesterday. Our young prince snaps that he is not old. She retorts that he looked incredibly weak, but somehow delivered a savage blow. Ash protests that he is neither weak nor ancient. He tries to clear the air, formally introducing himself as Ash, the third imperial prince turned lord of the crossroads. She scoffed at his royal claim, but trust me, her smug attitude vanished the moment Ash held up proof. Let's see how she handles the shocking truth next. You and I are about to dive into one of the wildest manhwa reveals. See that imperial identity tag. It proves Ash is telling the truth. Evangeline's face instantly lights up with a massive grin, begging her idol for an autograph. The young prince signs it, trying to clarify things. He asks if she is a fan just because he is known as the Empire's biggest loser. She happily nods, calling him a total disaster, leaving Ash completely baffled. She explains that she just wanted to rebel against her own father. Her goal was to stir up trouble, make a scene, and completely ruin the family name. So, she ran away to the Imperial Academy just because her dad hated the idea. However, the brutal daily training backfired. Instead of slacking off, she actually turned into a model student. But Ash knows she was far more than just a regular overachiever. Evangeline graduated at the absolute top of her class in just 3 years, despite the 6-year curriculum. That made her a record-breaking genius. She just shrugs, claiming she had no choice. All she managed was cutting her dad off for 3 years. Ash calls her rebellion cute, but she praises his legendary boldness, constantly stressing out his father, the Emperor, with endless creative accidents. He spends so much money he could literally build mountains of gold. Because of all this, his imperial father ended up collapsing from pure stress. Evangeline gushes, calling Ash her ultimate inspiration. The young prince sweat drops, highly doubting that as a compliment. She literally idolizes him for being a total deadbeat. Grinning, Evangeline asks where her own father is hiding. She wants to test out all the bad daughter tricks she learned from Ash, wondering if her dad ran away because he knew she graduated. Ash suddenly turns tense, realizing she has no idea what happened. When she asks what he means, it becomes clear she rushed straight home right after graduation. Now, pay attention here, because everything's about to shift. Ash clenches his fist. The girl grows tense, asking what is wrong. He quietly apologizes before delivering the devastating news her father has died. It happened just a few days ago. Her father sacrificed himself heroically to save the entire city. Ash has already submitted a full report of his bravery straight to the Imperial Palace. Thanks to his legendary service, he will be posthumously awarded a Medal of Honor. Evangeline stands frozen, completely speechless. Ash adds that the funeral will take place in 3 days with full honors. She lets out a hollow laugh. She wanted to play the bad daughter just once, but he went and died first. He always promised to die fighting monsters, and he actually did it, leaving her with no way to even hold a grudge. Ash bows his head. As the new lord of this territory, he bears full responsibility for the frontline defense. Therefore, she can blame him for her father's death instead. Evangeline looks at him, asking if he is really Prince Ash. She heard the prince was an arrogant, egocentric idiot who treated everyone like garbage. Ash sighs, begging her not to insult him to his face. She quietly thanks him for his kindness. He tells her a maid is waiting right outside the door if she needs anything. As he turns to leave, Evangeline calls out, apologizing for her reckless behavior and the carriage fight yesterday. Ash smiles, telling her not to worry about it. He shuts the door, advising her to rest. But first, let's look at her age. She is only 16. Ash realizes she is still a child, 2 years younger than Damien. Ader notes she was supposed to appear at the end of year 2, but the game's butterfly effect brought her here much earlier. Ash now understands why her appearance is so different from the version he remembers. She should have arrived 2 years later as a fully grown adult woman, since kids mature rapidly. Suddenly, a system alert chimes, announcing that Ash has successfully acquired a new character. Evangeline is level 35 with top-tier skills, especially her insane agility. She is the ultimate Vanguard unit, and her raw-based stats are absolutely jaw-dropping. She even boasts 100% damage resistance. But wait, I know what you were thinking. Here's the catch. She has a permanent troublemaker trait. Because of her youth, she is prone to making critical blunders. This penalty only disappears once she gains battlefield experience, making Ash feel incredibly uneasy. While he is glad she arrived early, this handicap is a major headache. At 16 years old, she should be laughing with friends, not fighting for her life on a bloody battlefield. Ash recalls the system's warning. Ader breaks his train of thought, asking if he plans to draft her. When the prince hesitates, Ader points out how much firepower she would bring. Ash admits he is highly tempted. Having 2 SSR rank heroes like Lucas and Evangeline by stage 3 would make things so much easier. But her father wanted her to escape this cursed wasteland and live in peace. Ash made a solemn vow to let her live freely, away from all this violence. That was the old commander's dying wish to keep her out of the family's brutal destiny. Ash is determined to honor that promise and let her forge her own path. Ader notices his conflicted expression, but Ash quickly deflects. The advisor warns that letting such a powerhouse slip away is a mistake they will deeply regret. Ash agrees, but refuses to abandon his humanity just to beat a game stage. Ader counters, reminding him he cleared the brutal Iron Man mode by being totally heartless. The prince nods, explaining that repeating his past cold-blooded playstyle means he has not grown at all. This time he actually wants to protect his humanity. Ader warns that such soft-hearted limits will eventually get him killed. But Ash does not care. He is not playing the hero. He just refuses to turn into a monster. Even in this disposable world, he chooses to remain human. He instructs Ader to look after Evangeline, knowing the young teenager is going through absolute hell right now. Ader shifts focus to her equipment. Her SSR-ranked sword and shield are completely ruined beyond repair, meaning they owe her a massive amount of compensation for the loss. Ash is horrified to learn her gear was SR rank, which is insanely rare and expensive. Ader suggests buying replacements using the high-grade magic stones from their last victory. Ash goes dead silent. When Ader asks why, Ash nervously confesses he spent every single stone on a magic gun. Ader looks utterly dumbfounded. Ash trembles, jokingly offering his lucky brass knuckles, which Ader instantly rejects. Realizing they are broke, Ash orders Ader to assemble the team. It is finally time to hunt down some mana stones in the dungeon. He will just craft her new gear from scratch. Hours later, the combat squad gathers in the manor backyard. Ash greets them, asking if they enjoyed their short vacation. The party looks completely exhausted. A tearful Lily whines about being summoned so soon, complaining that he should be using those new mercenary recruits instead of her. The prince explains that those new guild recruits are still just low-level rookies. They might turn into decent shields eventually, but they are nowhere near ready for his main squad. Besides, he will only replace Lily when he finds someone of her caliber. Suddenly, someone asks where they are heading, catching him off guard. It is Evangeline walking up to the group. As Lily questions her identity, Ash introduces her as Marcus Cross's only daughter, prompting the entire team to bow in respect. Jupiter offers condolences. When she asks where they are going, Ash mentions a dungeon, which she notes does not exist nearby. Trust me, we are about to find out what is next. All right, you and I are about to dive into a legend. She's completely shocked, asking about the lake's hidden dungeon, while Ash wonders how she even knows about it. She warns him that foolhardy treasure hunters go there and never return. But Ash just smirks, telling her they've already made it back alive. Now, she demands a real explanation. How could he explore a secret dungeon that even the legendary Cross family knew nothing about? Ash simply shrugs, suggesting maybe everyone in her family knew except for her. Since she missed out on the proper education as the family heir, she was completely left in the dark about the lake's secret, even if others knew. Ultimately, Ash tells her he doesn't care if she believes him. They're heading down anyway. As he walks away, Evangeline yells that she's tagging along. Insisting her top-tier academy training makes her highly useful on the battlefield. Ash tries to shut her down, but she refuses to back down. If there really is something hidden under that lake, she needs to see it with her own eyes. As the sole successor of the Cross family, whose parents were taken by the lake monsters, she claims her right to fight. Hearing this makes Ash incredibly uneasy. That heavy truth is exactly why he tried to keep her out of this. It's what her father wanted. Ash asks how she's holding up emotionally, but the girl just looks incredibly confused by his sudden concern. He clarifies, asking if she feels all right. She snaps that sitting around doing nothing makes her feel way worse. She needs action, practically demanding he take her along, and Ash finally relents. With no excuses left, he accepts her. Meanwhile, Lily hopes she gets dismissed, and Ash lets her stay back. She literally cries tears of joy, which somehow boosts the team's spirits. This massive morale boost actually increases their physical defense by 20%. Eider quickly hands over her childhood sword and shield. Seeing this, Ash realizes they're becoming a serious force. Ash rallies the squad, confirming everyone is ready. As they shout in agreement, he summons an epic teleportation portal and orders them in. Evangeline is absolutely stunned. But pay attention here, this is where the system drops a major hint. As they teleport to this hometown attraction, the game warns that NPCs can turn on you. Stepping into District 1, the drained sewer, Lucas looks confused. He asks Ash if they haven't already fully cleared this area. Ash explains they need an easy zone to test their new recruit's performance. When Lucas asks if enemies have respawned, Ash confirms dungeon monsters regenerate after every major wall defense battle. This mechanic lets them safely farm experience and items with minimal risk, which is great for boosting specific stats, while the main squad's primary goal remains absolute conquest. They push deeper to hunt bosses and trigger events. Meanwhile, sub-teams focus on farming, returning to cleared, high-level zones to harvest rare monster drops. Ash wants them functioning as the primary elite squad, but first, Evangeline needs to adjust. However, District 1 instantly makes her feel sick. As she throws up, Jupiter rushes to check on her. Ash suspects it's just portal sickness, something Lucas has never witnessed. Annoyed, she asks what these old guys are staring at, claiming she's totally fine. Lucas notes that despite her youth, she's clearly struggling. Ash secretly hoped they bond, considering they share the same combat role. Instead, he worries they'll clash over who's top dog. Suddenly, an echo rings out. Evangeline admits she's shocked this place is real, demanding to know how Ash found it when her own Cross family had no clue. Predicting this question, Ash prepared a clever response. He tells her he can't reveal everything, but hints that the Emperor wouldn't have sent him here without a grand purpose. Lucas and Evangeline are instantly awed. It's a complete bluff, but name-dropping the Emperor is the ultimate get-out-of-jail-free card, working perfectly every single time. Ash has actually never even seen the Emperor, but he silently thanks his father's reputation for making the lie believable. He then orders them to light torches. Evangeline immediately panics, squealing at the pitch-black shadows. Ash bluntly tells her to get used to it, adding that if she's afraid of the dark, she should just go home. Now, I know what you're thinking, what kind of crazy monster is waiting for them. As they enter the first room, the system tracks their progress. Suddenly, boulders shift. Evangeline flinches as a massive rock creature rumbles forward with a deafening roar. It's a level 6 stone golem, and there are 4 of them in here. Ash is stunned. Did they just walk into an ambush? He worries they're facing a whole army of giants, but Evangeline immediately draws her weapon. He notices her slight hesitation, knowing she lacks real-world combat experience. Ash claps his hands, declaring it's time to see what these stone giants are made of, which fires her up to lead the charge. The golem swings a massive fist, but she blocks it with her shield. Blown back by the impact, she reels in shock, wondering how a normal monster can possess such insane power. Instantly triggering her damage recovery skill, she charges right back. Shouting that neither heavy axes nor giant golems will stop her, she unleashes a vicious sword strike, immediately activating her second ability, damage playback. Ash is blown away by this absolute powerhouse's lethal combo. The second the first golem crumbles, she confidently roars that she's wiping out the rest. Using her first skill to absorb hit points and her second to dish it back twice as hard, she is a totally broken, overpowered character. She confronts the next monster, but her troublemaker trait suddenly triggers. Tripping over her own feet, she face plants, forcing a panicked Ash to scream for the team to rescue her. The fight wraps up smoothly as the final stone golem collapses. Evangeline eagerly looks around for more, fighting extra hard to redeem herself after that embarrassing stumble. The system confirms District 1 is cleared. Ash notes it took less than an hour, proving this initial floor is an absolute breeze with zero real danger. Ash calls for a quick break before they descend. Evangeline gasps, asking where they've arrived. Welcome to District 2, the hidden alley, their target for today's run. They need to farm some serious mana stones, making this the perfect opportunity to conquer the underworld beneath the lake. But first, the squad rests up. Even a simple run takes a toll, so resting is key. Ash amusedly watches Lucas and Evangeline bicker over a slice of bread. Turning to Damien under the torchlight, he checks if he's holding up all right. Damien nods, saying he didn't overexert himself. Ash then hands him a strange mana-infused hunting rifle. It's a specialized weapon that boosts backline armor penetration and damage by 10%. Ash explains he pulled this SR-tier mana weapon from their last chest. Think of it as a handheld, single-target mana cannon. It boasts massive damage, but shaky handling and low ammo make it highly niche. However, in Damien's expert hands, those fatal flaws completely vanish. Ash advises keeping it as a backup. Damien inspects the heavy firearm, realizing he'll need serious strength training since he'll eventually be carrying 6 of these beasts around. By cycling through multiple preloaded weapons, they easily bypass the ammo limit. The blacksmith is already hard at work on the modifications. And honestly, you and I both know that exploiting real-world physics is the best way to break the game. While Damien gratefully bows, Ash is secretly thrilled to have recruited such a broken bug character. Alright, let's dive into District 2's hidden alley with Ash and his crew. Grab your lanterns because they are standing at the entrance of a zone with 4 rooms and a deadly boss. With a smirk, Ash orders everyone into District 2. Lucas raises his torch, lighting their path through the dark, creepy alleys of the Lake Kingdom as they advance. Ash never noticed this detail while playing the game, but walking these streets in person gives him actual chills. It's a monster hideout, and imagining a giant golem popping out is absolutely terrifying. And just like that, a massive monster emerges from the shadows. Ash and Evangeline scream in terror as a giant, gear-turning steam robot appears, letting out an earth-shattering roar. The system alerts them it is a level 15 steam golem, and there are 2 of them. Ash wonders if they reached the second room already, but the pitch-black alleys make it impossible to tell. As the golem charges, Lucas yells that he will hold the line, slashing his sword at the beast. Ash screams a warning there is another one nearby. The second golem ambushes Lucas from behind. Evangeline rushes in, bracing her shield to block the brutal strike, immediately realizing these guys are way stronger than her previous opponents. Ash watches the intense clash, his mind racing to formulate a winning tactic. That is his job, after all. He orders Jupiter and Damien to focus fire on Lucas's target first. Both are elite knights, but while Lucas deals damage while taking hits, Evangeline is a pure defense tank. In terms of raw shielding power, she easily outclasses him. Ash orders the girl to hold the line, and she readily agrees. These giant elite golems might be few, but they pack a serious punch. Meanwhile, Lucas continues his relentless sword assault. Facing these elite golems head-on is pure suicide, which is why team coordination is absolutely key. Ash screams for Lucas to shatter the monster's legs and bring it down. Lucas charges, delivering a lightning-fast sweep that shatters the golem's leg, forcing it to its knees. Ash orders Jupiter to obliterate its outer armor so they can expose its weak spot. With total composure, Jupiter unleashes a massive electrical shock. The armor cracks but does not completely shatter, leaving her wondering if her attack was not strong enough. Now pay attention, because Damien is ready. He does not need a massive opening. A tiny crack is enough. Ash yells to pull the trigger, sending a devastating bullet straight at the golem. Ash catches the recoiling boy before he hits the ground. Damien gasps, asking if they got it, and Ash just smirks, telling him to look at the battlefield himself. A massive, smoking hole is blasted right through the golem's chest. Lucas sighs in relief, admitting that was brutal. Ash warns that these elites are a whole different beast. They cannot let their guard down as the difficulty keeps ramping up. Since District 2 features fewer but far deadlier monsters, they must treat every single clash like a boss battle. Evangeline yells out, asking why they are celebrating while she is still fighting. Ash apologizes for forgetting about her, but she snaps back that her shield is literally about to shatter. Ash quickly rallies the team to back her up. From there, their strategy becomes straightforward, clearing wind golems whenever the dark alleys widen up enough to fight. Though brutal initially, they quickly find their rhythm. They even encounter a mimic disguised as a treasure chest. Ash wonders if they will believe he triggered it on purpose, but hey, everyone is having fun. As they deeper into the dungeon, Lucas accidentally touches a suspicious puddle of sticky, pitch-black water. He panics, claiming the shadows are literally pulling his hand in. Clinging to a nearby ledge, Lucas warns the crew that straying from the main path is a one-way ticket to doom. Damien points out a blocked entrance, noting they cannot get inside. Jupiter inspects the barrier, realizing it is sealed with ancient magic that physical strength alone cannot break. Damien wonders if they sealed it to keep monsters out, asking what could possibly be that terrifying. Ash shakes his head, pointing out the seal was placed from the outside. With a gulp, Damien asks Ash what he thinks is locked inside that house. Ash deadpans, saying there is no way to know, and they have bigger issues. He urges them forward. The system updates their progress, 3 out of 4 rooms cleared, leaving only the boss. Now, I know what you were thinking. Boss time? Well, they step into a massive square-like plaza. Ash warns everyone to stay close since another golem could strike at any second. Evangeline points to a dry fountain in the center of the square. Atop the stone structure stands a statue depicting a bearded warrior king holding a sword. Judging by the crown, it must be the legendary king of the Lake Kingdom. Ash wonders why the surrounding statues are destroyed, but Damien suddenly points to a glowing light. A mysterious blue flame flickers in the distance. Ash tenses up, realizing someone else is down here in the pitch-black ruins. He whispers for the group to advance slowly. They creep forward. In a city crawling with horrific beasts, finding another human is actually terrifying. Ash wonders if this stranger is a friend or a foe. One wrong move means game over. They spot shattered golem parts littered among the blue flames. Ash is stunned to realize these are the remains of elite monsters. Did this lone figure slaughter all of them? Suddenly, a familiar voice praises Ash for exploring the depths with such skill. Ash gasps as the Nameless One steps into the light. Ash demands to know what she is doing here. Despite meeting before, he keeps his guard up. He has never encountered this non-player character in any of his 742 playthroughs. The Nameless One casually replies that she was just resting, complaining that life in the ruined Lake Kingdom is incredibly boring. Since they made it this far, she acknowledges their strength. As the party braces for a fight, she unexpectedly lays out a red cloth filled with rare, shiny treasures. She sweetly asks if they want to buy some high-quality gear. Ash is dumbfounded, realizing she is a merchant. She doesn't know what a non-player character is, but she is definitely a vendor. She pitches a buy one get two sale with a 30% discount on their first purchase. Pointing to a sleek armor set, she asks why they are hesitating. She smirks, saying deals like this do not happen every day. Ash recovers from his shock, crouching down to inspect her stock. These are legendary relics gathered from across the ruins, stuff you can never find on the surface. The crew is blown away by items that exceed all expectations. Turns out she is incredibly useful. When Ash asks for her price, she clarifies that gold is worthless here. She only accepts mana stones, just as he suspected. Mana stones can buy incredible gear or be exchanged for imperial gold. But here is the catch: they already converted all their stones into surface currency. They have absolutely zero left. He never expected to encounter a merchant so early, leaving these legendary items completely out of reach. Desperate, he wonders if he can barter instead. Ash offers up the few fresh stones they just looted, asking what they can buy. She examines them, admitting they are useful, but notes how serious he looks on their very first deal. And trust me, you and I can agree she is a total angel for this. Ash eagerly claims his free treasure, knowing they are about to get a massive power-up. All right, stick with me because our main character Ash is about to make a decision that could change everything, and he's desperate to prove his legendary gaming skills to the world. Jupiter claims she is not greedy, but eating that 100-year-old root would grant her 10 extra years of life. So, she's actually choosing healing over gear. Unreal. Ash snaps at her to use her own cash. Meanwhile, Lucas holds up 2 speed-boosting boots for Ash to judge, prompting Ash to ask if he's trying to raise his agility. Lucas tearfully explains they're actually for Ash to escape faster when things go south. Talk about a loyal best friend. Sadly, since Lucas isn't a frontline fighter, Ash decides to save that purchase for another day. Then Damien spots a potion generator. The healer points out how useful it would be for patching up injured soldiers over time, and Ash has to admit it is a pretty clever concept. Sure, the output speed is low, but a constant stream of free potions is a massive help for their wounded troops. But since potions are easily bought on the surface, wasting their rare choice on this seems foolish. Ash asks Evangeline why she's not picking anything, and she reminds him she is just a temporary ally who doesn't care about gear. She got a top-tier sword and shield for graduation, which Ash mentions are currently at the blacksmith's. To her, that's more than enough. Ash and Lucas freeze. They came here to buy her gear, yet got totally sidetracked by their own greed. Feeling guilty, Ash asks Nameless if she has any swords or shields in stock. She smiles and pulls out a matching set of demon sword and giant shield. Both are level 35 SSR tier gear. The sword boosts damage by 30%, and the shield cuts incoming damage by 30%. Ash is stunned. It's the legendary Demon Giant set. Equipping both boosts skills by 50%, but having just one piece grants 0 bonuses. Ash is torn since he can only choose one piece. But pay attention here. Nameless casually mentions a buy one get two event, letting him take the entire set. Ash can barely believe his ears. She claims she has no use for it anyway. All she wants is his promise to keep conquering this dungeon and buy from her next time. To Ash, she is literally an angel. Flustered, he thanks her, feeling like a total newbie getting boosted by a high-level pro. He vows to play his best, then calls Evangeline over to accept this insane gear. The girl is completely baffled. So, Ash finally decides to confess the truth that her original equipment was completely vaporized beyond repair because of him. Surprisingly, Evangeline blames herself, arguing she started the fight and Ash was just trying to pull her back. Ash cuts her off and tells her to just accept it as a gift, leaving her dazed. Ash raises his voice and hands over the shield and blade. He tells her that when a mature adult hands you an amazing present, you say thank you and take it. He adds that as a royal and a senior from her academy, this is her graduation gift, and you don't refuse royalty. Besides, this is also to honor her father, Marcus Cross, who gave his life for the city. If Ash didn't replace his hero father's gear, the guilt would eat him alive. Evangeline quietly thanks him, but Jupiter gets incredibly jealous, demanding to know where her special present is. Ash tells her she gets a salary, but promises a cool magic item later. Then Lucas pouts, asking about his gift, but Ash assures him he already has a weapon plan mapped out. Damien smiles, completely content. Ash laughs, reminding him he just got an incredibly pricey mana weapon. Meanwhile, Jupiter flashes a mana stone to the merchant and snatches that magical root. I know what you're thinking, where did she get that stone? Ash is wondering the same thing as she cackles like a villain. Ash asks Nameless if he can ask her a quick question, and she happily agrees. He asks if she knows a flute player, but she seems clueless. Ash explains he's a wandering minstrel with a black hat who can actually control monsters with music and likely originated from this very place. A spark of recognition hits Nameless. She notes that while many weirdos roam the lakebed, that specific flute player is actually a pretty legendary figure down here. Ash is surprised since the guy was a nobody in the game. Nameless explains that if they keep pushing forward, they'll find a massive safe zone nestled between Districts 3 and 4. Dungeon crawlers call this haven the camping base. Ash instantly remembers it as the hub that unlocks right after clearing District 3. Run by non-playable characters, it is a bustling market packed with high-end merchants. Nameless promises the flute player will be there, or at least someone with intel on him, though Ash has to survive some major threats first. Even so, she's confident those dangers won't stop our hero. Wishing him luck on staying alive, she vanishes into the shadows. Damien wonders how a merchant even survives down here, calling her fascinating, but Lucas warns she can't be trusted. When Ash asks why, Lucas points out she is insanely powerful. Just look at how easily she wiped out those monsters solo. She's a beast. Ash secretly knows that if Lucas maxes out his level and stats, he could easily do the same. But he gets Lucas's worry. Still, Nameless is technically an ally, and honestly, who could hate someone who just handed them a free SSR gear set? Ash claps and rallies the squad. It is time to hunt the boss. Next stop, the boss chamber. They have successfully cleared all 4 rooms of District 2, leaving only the final showdown. They need to crush him and loot his hoard. Arriving at a massive temple, they notice the seal is shattered. Ash admits he has no clue what is inside, but since the lock is broken, they're heading in. Damien hesitates while Evangeline suggests retreating. Ash tells the rookies to quiet down, declaring they aren't leaving without raiding the boss's lair. Stepping inside, the room resembles a massive, abandoned warehouse covered in thick swamp moss. It feels like this entire zone was underwater for centuries. Lucas wonders if a massive flood hit the area. Ash dryly reminds him they are literally sitting beneath a giant lake. Suddenly, they spot a collapsed mechanical titan. This is no scrap heap. It is the level 20 steam giant boss, Bayan. Ash immediately realizes this boss has a human name too. First came Peleg in District 1, and now this. The massive golem groans about intruders, rising to its feet, declaring it is time to exterminate them. The titan attacks. Lucas screams a warning, jumping in front of Ash with his sword raised while Evangeline readies her new shield. The attack deflects, striking the monster back. Jupiter recognizes the rare magical light and asks Ash to quickly feed them the winning strategy. Though startled by its scale, Ash knows its exact weakness. He literally knows every single boss in this game. He barks at his squad to ignore the giant's size and stick to their usual tactics. All they have to do is shatter its mana cores. But because this thing is humongous, 10 distinct mana points are scattered across its entire body. Evangeline panics while Lucas asks if they really have to smash all 10 cores. Ash confirms that is the only way to end this, explaining that destroying a core completely freezes that section of its body. So, their first priority is taking out the hands. Jupiter eagerly volunteers to strike first, while Damien locks onto the right hand. Both coordinate their spells, scoring direct hits. With the giant's hands shattered, it still advances. Ash screams to target the feet next to cripple its movement, rallying Lucas and Evangeline to strike. Let's see if they can pull this off. Alright, you and I are diving right back in as the boss complains about his aching back from sweeping. He raises his massive hand, shocking Ash, who did not expect a bare-fisted strike. The monster unleashes a heavy blow, forcing Lucas and Evangeline back. His attacks are powerful, but way too slow and wide. Annoyed by his endless mumbling, Evangeline triggers her damage playback skill. Determined not to fall behind, Lucas charges in and slashes the giant's legs, shattering them completely. Still, the boss keeps rambling, wishing he could learn magic in the royal court instead. He is totally sick of cleaning like a mindless robot. Ash quickly orders Evangeline to defend, while telling Jupiter and Damien to blast his right arm, completely blowing the limb away. Pinned to the ground, the creature mutters about inventing a cleaning spell to help his coworkers. Right then, a flurry of coordinated attacks rains down on him from all sides. The boss collapses. Lucas steps up, driving his blade straight into the chest to shatter its mana core. He yells that only the head remains, but suddenly, the beast starts twitching again. Now, pay attention here, the creepy boss mutters that he thought he already cleaned this area. While the main character can easily dodge this psycho, he knows Jupiter and Damien will get hit. Furious, Ash charges forward to punch the boss himself. He wanted his team to carry him, but now the giant slap machine starts spinning out of control. Ash's punch sends the boss flying, popping the head right off. Though terrified, he got incredibly lucky. As the severed head groans and slowly dies, the boss mutters about feeling rain. Lucas offers to deliver the final blow since boss kills grant massive experience points. But since Ash has the lowest level, he climbs onto the giant head to take this golden opportunity. The monster keeps rambling about the heavy rain. Confused by the beast's nonsense, Ash drives his sword deep inside. Finally, they clear the hidden alley boss room, standing amidst the scattered remains. Ash secures a massive boss kill bonus and the crucial last hit experience points to boost his level. And with that successful raid wrapped up, our recap comes to an end. Make sure you and I stay connected for the next episode, hit that notification bell, and see you next time on Tobs.